Lost Aslan Natives
Lost Aslan in the
podcast.
Kali.
Yo, what's up, Zero?
What's up, my brothers? How you doing? Brothers and sisters of Aslan, Danahuak, Turtle Island.
I want to shout out everyone that listens to us on Spotify.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, it's one thing to watch us live on YouTube, but I appreciate when people take valuable time out of their day. I don't know what they're doing, but they listen throughout the whole podcast.
Right.
That's tough, right, Zero?
It's shout out to the community who does that because, right here on this show, we learned about time, and time is a very important investment. And I know Armando's, explaining how grateful he is for people to invest the time in our podcast. I mean, a disclaimer, we have no answers for no one. We have opinions, and we have strong opinions. And those opinions are based on historical fact.
Absolutely.
So shout out to everybody who listens to LA Natives, who supports LA Natives, events, concerts, workshops. I mean, Plant-Based Aslan this Sunday, December 5th.
And the reason why I'm pointing this out, Zero, is because off air, we're planning a lot of events.
It's time. It's time to gather the family and give them the proper information they need to move forward in this time, right? This is what the whole reason why, I decided to do a podcast. Armando said, let's do an album. And then it's like, hey, but wait a minute, I have this podcast equipment. And I'm like, I'm down to talk. I'm down to share what I know. I'm down to introduce people to the people that have been along my journey of decolonization and breaking the colonial perspective. So,
and we're doing this through hip hop.
Yeah, well, I'm a hip hop artist,
which was ultimately the foundation of this podcast to begin with. Man, we are dedicated and devoted to the indigenous hip hop community out there.
Absolutely, you couldn't have said it better. I mean, hip hop was the reason why that's the medium that I choose to share my message. And like I said, I was a part of your first event ever. We have a long history, Armando, and it's time that we gather and plan, as we were talking off air, about our whole year. What are we going to do next year?
Yeah.
And put it in the right places so that this information can penetrate the hearts of the people that are going to make grand change in our land, right? And when I say our land, that means that we are connected to our mother in a way that's away from colonial perspective. We're connected in a sovereign way when we take responsibility for our own life and understand our own true road.
Our first event, back on June 25th, we had about 280 people there.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
It was, people traveled from San Jose. It was a call to the masses, and they all showed up.
Shout out to the Catch One for hosting that for us.
Absolutely.
Great club, great venue. We had 2 stages.
Shout out to all the artists that perform. Product, Olmeca,
Product Pistolas,
Yeah.
Zero of El Vuh, of course.
Absolutely.
Even Mythicism had a few words.
Oh, yeah. Brother, Mythicism.
So shout out to Heron. He's tuning in.
Right on, Heron. What's up?
So I think we're going to have a guest come on.
Yeah, I thought it was important that, I brought Daniel on to the show, and I never really gave a proper introduction, a conversation that revolved around how we met and what he really does too, like for a living. He owns a brand called Danahuak, and Danahuak was one of the clothing lines in the early awakening of our indigeneity that really impacted our community. So we want to have him on today. So we're going to talk to him in a little bit as soon as he clicks in.
So he's one of the OGs.
OG, yeah. In the whole, I mean, it's kind of like, I used to think that it was that way, but everybody got awakened in different places around the same time, you know? So when El Vuh was forming, here comes Danahuak forming his clothing line, right? As well as Aslan Underground, Quinto Sol. The whole movement, you know, kind of arose in different places and then culminated in certain areas. And it's kind of like what we're doing with LA Natives is in terms of, you know, the clothing, the events, this podcast, the workshops, you know?
So we have another pop-up going down
Yes.
at Malinani Superfoods.
Yes, December 5th, plant-based Aslan. We're going to have vegan pozole, vegan tamales, arts and crafts, indigenous arts and crafts, vegan food options, and much, much more. So, you know, go to our Malinali Superfoods Instagram page and you'll get all the information you need for this Sunday's event, December 5th, plant-based Aslan in the heart of East Los Angeles on historical Woodard Boulevard. Can't wait.
So Daniel, if you're tuning in,
Let me text him. Let me see what's up.
just click on that link that we emailed you. And Haron, we need to have you back, brother. Let's get you back.
Absolutely.
Oh, there he is, Danahuak. Yeah, I just emailed you the link. Let me go ahead and confirm that.
So we got him on. You got a lighter? Oh. Thank you so much. Thank you, brother.
Let's see. Here we go. I just resent you the email. But yeah, you know, we've had Daniel on a few times, guys, and every time he's on, he just blows my mind away.
Well, I would want to talk about like how he got into this knowledge, you know, and then obviously how he got into this knowledge led him to make a clothing brand. It was really dope, man. A lot of people used his gear, and I wanted him to talk about who he was able to, you know, not impress, but, you know, make an impression on with his clothing line, with his knowledge. And he does like crazy shows like in Arcadia, you know what I mean? Like in the humble, you know, Emerald Triangle. And I want to talk about like some of the shows that he's, you know, participated. I think it was Reggae on the River, you know, where you feel like it's all going to be African things, but he's selling Nawak jewelry, jade, Quetzalcoatl shirts and things like that. So he said he did really well at those events. So I kind of just want to talk about his journey, you know, what inspired him to do it, because he's been a part of El Vuh's journey from the beginning, you know.
Here we go. We're about to get Daniel on the line real quick. Let me
And shout out to the chat, man. Thank you guys for, you know, taking the time and, you know, putting a message on our thread. And, you know, I just want to say shout out to that because, you know, it's not easy to get people to interact with what you're talking about, what you're saying. But with that being said, we got my brother, Daniel Hawk. What's up, Daniel?
Yo, Daniel, welcome back, brother.
Can you hear us? Yo, Daniel.
What's up, man? Can you guys see me or
I can see you.
I can't see myself.
I could
It's all
see
good.
you.
Yes, we
Yeah.
could see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yes.
could totally hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Daniel? Daniel, check 1, 2. Mr. Daniel.
I can hear you. I can't see myself, but I don't think I need to see myself.
Does it do that?
Yeah. It's good to be back.
Does it give you a window to look back?
It should, but it seems to be fine on my end.
Okay. But you can hear us, right, Daniel?
It doesn't. There seems to be a delay.
Oh.
Oh, you know what though? Oh man, I can, but you know what though? Let me log out and log back in because I should do it through Chrome.
Oh, that might be the delay. Go ahead. We have time.
Yes, maybe opening up Google Chrome, that might do the trick. And this is what I hate about Restream, because sometimes there's those little hiccups, and it drives me insane.
Well, I mean, again, this isn't NBC or CNN,
Right?
bro. It's like we're doing the best that we can with the equipment that's allowed to us.
We're like almost 100 episodes in, no sponsors,
Yeah.
no
All
nothing.
heart. This is all heart medicine. When we get on the mic, it's not about, although we're not trying to say we don't need resources or we will not welcome somebody wanting to help us maybe make this better, but with financial contributions. But we're not going to sell out. We're not doing things for money. We're not capitalists, and we're going to make do with what we have, because what we have can be effective. It has been effective. Look at the community that we built. Shout out to all those brothers out there, because they come to the shop and they tell me, man, the podcast helps me, right? And that's all we want to do. We want to extend a
All right,
loving
brother, I'm
hand.
back.
Yo,
It
Daniel.
just took Google Chrome. That was
Yeah.
it.
So that you're good. You can hear
Yeah,
us in
yeah.
real time and all that. Good.
Everything seems cool. Yeah, good to
Perfect.
be here again.
Well, Daniel, I mean, you're an intricate part of this show, believe it or not. You've been on several times, and I don't know if we ever really had a chance to talk about your journey in specifics, and then leading up to what you've done very well for a very long time, which is your brand, your clothing brand.
Right, right. Well,
Um,
yeah, I think you did a good job of talking about the intro and like, I don't know, Ruben. It seems like I blink an eye and all of a sudden, I got gray hair and shit. You
all
say
time.
OG, and
Yeah.
it's like I think that, and I take that with respect. I do remember the beginning. The beginning, and it was different.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me sometimes, and people talk about, oh, I started back in this day. I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. I started in 1998 is when I
Wow.
filed for the company,
There
but
you go.
that was the kind of like the culmination of, you know, just trying to do something,
Right.
trying to come up with something because I just had learned and had such a journey of knowledge and wisdom and just experience that it was like, man, I got to share it. But,
Mm,
it was one of those things where, I don't know, it's like church, you can't make people go to church. You
mm,
can't. And,
mm.
and so when people are ready though, oh man, it's a beautiful thing. And so it was a very, but I mean, but let's take it back, Rui. Like, because I
Yeah.
think for
I
me,
mean,
go
the
ahead.
first impression I had of you, Daniel, is when you handed me a sheet, right? You're like, oh, yeah, this is our shirts, but let me hand you this sheet before you look at the shirts,
Right, right,
right?
right, right,
And I thought that was an interesting marketing approach, because you wanted to explain the symbols before I saw the merchandise.
right,
You know what I
right.
mean? And I looked at
Well,
that sheet, and it had a lot of information on it. It had what the symbols were, what they represented, which made me have a more deeper look at it. It no longer just became something that I wore for fashion, but something that was a part of my yearning to know something.
right, right.
And
Well,
so
I mean,
you provided that.
oh, well, thank you, Ruben. Yeah, it seemed a natural process because we even, it was a bit of a challenge when we started because originally it was Aztec symbols. No, I'm sorry, it was indigenous symbols with meaning.
Mm.
And fuck, man, how many times I had to tell people what indigenous meant, and I was like, oh man, we got to change this shit because like people don't no idea.
Uh,
And so it just, so we had to change the name. It was like, so then I came up with Anahuac Designs because I knew it had to be about Anahuac because, um, man, I just had a profound experience, and I guess we'll talk it back. In 1996, I got an opportunity to go and study at an indigenous school in Mexico.
mm.
And my cousin had at UCLA said, "Hey, these people showed up and at a Metcha conference, and they said they got this school, and so, and I think I had mentioned this on LA Natives, but that's how it started, and so we ended up going to this indigenous school in Mexico, and that
How
was
old
in
are you, Daniel?
man, I was probably about 30. I
Oh,
think it was around 96. It was 96, so Man, I guess I'm trying to think. I was born in '68. I'm 53 today, so
No way. Today?
no, no, no. I mean,
Oh,
I'm 53.
oh,
Not today.
oh! I thought you said today in the birthday.
No,
Fucking
no, no, no.
Daniel.
No. I'm saying, but I'm no longer just 52.
Right, right.
But and so going there, Ruben. Oh man, it really changed my life. That they flipped my lid. They
Mm,
flipped my lid, and it was just the thing is too. I want to say something too, Ruben. It's really important. I realize, and I think we were talking about this, is that I realize that I'm just, I'm an instrument. I'm a
mm,
messenger, if I could say anything. And
mm,
so I didn't create anything new,
mm,
but I went searching for like knowledge. I went because I was studying in college. I was in Cal Poly, and I was, kind of going through the college thing and doing, what I thought I wanted to do, but I really didn't have an idea what I wanted to do. I kind of tell people I was a hologram. I think I was
mm,
a hologram until I got to that school in 1996, and then,
mm.
once I got there, it was like, oh shit. Like they really broke me down of who I thought I was. And then they gave me the option of really who I am. And I was like, oh damn. And so I went there thinking I was like this kind of like a coconut, like just
Mm,
thinking, oh, I'm Mexican, but I'm white too. I talk like a white person, and
mm.
people would joke about me. Oh, damn, you really sound white. I was like, okay, well, and it was funny, and I'd get shit all the time. We'd get the family members would call us the coconuts.
Mm.
And so it's a term. I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of fucked up, but it's true though.
It's
But
crazy because
Ruben,
my kids, my not to cut you off, but
yeah, no, go ahead.
my kids got labeled that when they were kids, right?
Right,
Like, oh, you guys are the white guys. Like, why? Because like I had a business and I took care of my family well. That's not being white. That's being strong
right.
for the
But you know
next
what, though,
seven
Ruben?
generations. And your
But
pops did as best as he could with whatever he could, and if he gave you opportunities that other individuals didn't have, that's not your fault. You know what I mean? But I get what you're saying. But what I was going to ask you, Daniel, what was the thought? Okay, you had your cousin say, okay, at Mecha, there's some people and they
right,
have this
right,
school.
right.
What thought was it that said, I need to go there? Because were you already into the Aztec culture already?
Yeah, I was to as much as I knew I thought I was. And so
Mm,
my cousin was like, "Oh yeah, because here's the thing, and I'm just gonna throw this out there just to say it. My cousin, his dad, he's the founder of Lowrider magazine.
oh, wow.
Okay, and so it's just funny to hear people say, but he founded that. I remember as a little kid in the back there stapling the shit together, and they gave us 25 cents for every magazine that we stapled together. And it was like, yeah, I mean, and that was the first magazine where the girl's sitting there and it says lowrider on her back, and
Mm,
so, and honestly, Ruben, that I have to give him credit. He struggled because man, there was never any love for us for anything that we did,
mm,
But I worked with him at those car shows, and I look at the shirt booth, and damn, that shit was just lined up, and I thought to myself, and even I bought a couple shirts, but you know what, Ruben, man, they were just shit. They were caca, like
mm,
after I got
mm,
home, a couple of them washed out, but that was kind of, but it always stuck in my head. I thought, oh man, that's a crazy way to make a living,
mm,
um, but anyway, so that primo said, hey, I want to get to Mexico. And he just, he didn't have the capacity, he doesn't
mm,
speak Spanish,
mm.
and so, we ended up going there, and Ruben, oh my God, it was just the school looked like the temples. They're
Oh,
shaped like teocalis. One teocalli where we studied was Quetzalcoatl. The other teocalli was Mictlan. The other one was Huitzilopochtli, and the other one was Tezcatlipoca. And the crazy thing was that we slept in Tezcatlipoca, and so
wow.
yeah,
What an
we
experience.
studied in Quetzalcoatl, and so anyways, it was a very immersed, experience because we were basically living in the temples, eating indigenous foods. And the thing was, Ruben, what really impressed me was just how, most of our teachers were women. And the
Mm,
knowledge that they gave us it was all part of the day. As it started out, you start out with danza, and in the danza you learn the directions, and then you learn the dance steps, and then the dance steps were the same number equations that you learned, later on in the math and then the calendar. And so everything kind of collected. It was they teach you in a circle where everything connects, and so we
mm,
were basically getting like 6 classes a day, and then walking through the forest and looking at the plants. And it was a very intense, just learning about all the things, language, science. It was just a broken down, and for 2 weeks we just did that, man. And then after that we went out into the temples, and they took us to the temples. But the thing was, Ruben, I want to stop a second. At one point they took us to this indigenous book fair, and it was in Malinalco. And it was really like, man, that's what changed me, Ruben, because I ended up meeting some people there, and there was a professor, and his name was Stivalet Tlacatsin, and he wrote an article that I read, and the article was entitled "Por qué Anahuac?" And he basically just broke down why we need to call the continent Anahuac. And I was like, oh man, this fucking made sense to me. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And so it always had stuck in my head. And he was a professor at UNAM, and so had a lot of literature. And that was the thing too, Ruben, at that gathering there, we were exposed to so many different like books that you'd never run into, man. Like I bought a book that was about Koyulshalqui, and I tell you what, it had nothing to do with the moon. Had everything to do with the stars and the math count and everything. And so, man, I always cringe today when they just say, "Oh, it's La Luna." It's kind of like saying, I don't even know how to compare it, Ruben, because man, she's the stars, and our moon is just an extension of the Earth, and it's almost blasphemy, brother, because she's, the night sky. They're the stars, man. And so to compare the moon to a star, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't even know how to compare it.
It just comes with our, lack of information.
Right, right,
We
Ruben. And I
feel
mean,
things and we feel connected to them, and
right, right,
and
right.
and whatever way we can piece the puzzle, it's kind of like I guess I always attribute it, and Jenny always challenges me on this, but it's like I want you to just kind of picture an orphan, right? All he has is this whatever, a piece of cloth, right? But in his
Right,
mind, that was a cloth to maybe something that was personal to someone, his teacher, his mom, and you're
right,
holding
right.
on to that cloth and you're making up stories about that cloth and how much that person loved you, and you still have a piece of that person that loves you.
Yes,
That's the way I
yes.
feel when we see symbols and we see things and we're trying our best to try to understand these things. And that's why my job as an LA Natives host, as having friends that have been immersed in this wisdom, to bring them so that we can get clarity. We can get
And
clarity on that.
it's true, Ruben. And I mean, what's a really beautiful thing, Ruben, is that like just this last weekend, I was with my relatives from Mexico City,
Mm.
and one of my tios there is the first tio that took me to Teotihuacan when I was like 7 years old.
Wow.
And I took a trip there, and it was before Teotihuacan had like guides and shit, and so I'll never forget that. I remember being on the Temple of the Moon and picking up rocks and shit. Man, it's the little travieso, man. I picked up a rock, and there was like a white scorpion, and I just fucking stepped on it, and I just, trippy. I was like, oh shit, and I look back and I think, man, what a fucking idiot I was, like you can't do that shit, really, And so, but I just think, it's just amazing. You look back at your life, and you just think how sometimes we just don't know,
Well,
we
I
don't
mean,
know.
that energy space, Teotihuacan, I know what it did for me just stepping on the
Right,
grounds of that.
right, right.
Now,
Oh, Ruben, and that's really what it's about, because here's the thing, Ruben. Through a Nawak, man, I was able to just like fund the investigation of like more information, because,
mm,
and as you know, okay, so studying there at the University of Nawak was a great like a beginning, to show me, to open my mind to be critical of things, because
mm,
what they said was that, part of the reason that everything is the way it is because we lack critical thought. It's like, oh
mm,
damn, it's true. Like you can look at all these things and you begin to investigate things with critical thought, and man, you think, what mierda they're trying to pull over our eyes, And so, because I remember the first thing that he broke down, the maestro was like, okay, the first thing I want to tell you is the word Indio, Indios. It's like,
mm,
okay, why do you think it's, I said, oh, because you're from India. And he goes, no. He said, India doesn't even exist as India in the 1500s. And it's like, oh shit,
mm,
it's true. Like, and he said, what it is, he says Indios, it means sin Dios. It means without God, because they came to us and they called us the people without God. And I was like, oh shit.
mm,
And he broke it down, and I was like, oh man, okay, damn, that's an important point, and
mm,
you think about that. And then the next point, he said, then we don't have the word for death either. There's no word for death. That
mm,
was a concept that the gringos brought us. It's like, oh shit, like, so
mm.
these are like just a profound beginning to like understand the world that you've been described, and so You think about
Absolutely.
that, Reuben. Those are
It's funny
two.
though, guys. It's like, they come in, they go, "Oh, these are the people without God," but they have math, science,
Right.
astrology,
Right. You know
archaeology.
what, bro?
I mean,
They don't need God. They don't need God.
everything, everything that connects
They're
them,
doing
and
it, you know?
That's insane.
yeah, like, they go, "Oh, look at these savage people. They're out of God." But
No,
yet
man.
their temples are precisely
But
aligned
Reuben,
with
you know,
celestial.
but
It's
Reuben,
like
even the other
all the
day,
math and shit that it took to make these temples talk. These temples talk. If you clap in front of them, they make
right.
sounds of
Right.
hummingbirds.
Hey, but Reuben, I just saw something recently and it's very true. If you think about it, Catholicism, Christianity,
Mm,
that's their mythicism. That's their myth. You know, like they
mm,
come in, they teach us as if it's fact when we don't have mythicism, we have science. Like
mm,
we look at the world and we observe it. That's what he said, that we observe the world. Okay, so this is the four principles of the Mashika thought. Okay, is for one is that we observe.
mm,
Okay, we observe the world. Okay, the next thing we do is we experiment. Okay, we take that observation and we begin to experiment. Okay, and then after that, what do? We discover.
mm,
We discover. That's the third thing. We things start to make sense to us. And fourth, and most important of all, Ruben, then we create.
mm,
Okay, it's the four principles. And so, what does a baby do?
mm.
Shits his pants, cries. You know,
Yeah,
they learn. They learn. Oh man, I got shit in my pants. If I cry, they'll change my shit. You know,
right.
I'm hungry. If I, and it's that principle of just
That's
a
thought.
living being. And so, what they said was that the Mexica observed things, and when they observed things, they gave it a name. And so by
Mm,
naming something, they understood it. You know, they
mm,
deemed it as part of their information, as you would say.
mm,
Whereas the Spanish came and they didn't have that concept. They weren't on that level of information, we would say. You know, they're very limited. And
right.
so,
Right.
that idea of looking at the world, as information is important, Ruben, because we had all the information and we shared it with them, but they said, "Fuck it, we don't want any of that shit. We want your gold."
Right.
you know, and so
I
they didn't.
always tell the story at the shop where it's like, you know, you see a Spaniard and he finally gets to the place where, he sees authority, right? And he's all, "Where's the cup?" And the guy in authority is going, huh? Like, you don't want to know the wisdoms. You don't want to know how
Right,
we
right,
fucking organize communities. You want to know how we
right,
fast for fucking
right,
long time. You want the
right,
fucking cup that happens to be made out of gold? Take it. You
right,
know, it
right,
wasn't something that we had. We didn't cling to things
right,
because
right.
we were in the life of the fleeting moment, right? We didn't cling to anything. We had to accept what was coming towards us. That's why I'm proud of being of that lineage that
Right.
accepted.
Hey, but you
Because
know, too, Ruben, I wanted to say something too, and I think I'm kind of looking over at the chat too, and I always hear this, man. It's like people, when you start talking about God, to some people it kind of breaks their rational thought
mm,
tool, and it's like,
mm,
and the thing is you gotta understand, as a Mexica, God came here in 1492. Okay, before that, God was not here. Okay,
mm,
God is a concept that these people brought to us, and it's like,
absolutely.
yeah, we all came out of a man. We're all looking at each other like, what the fuck? We came out of who are these guys? Okay, cool, all right, whatever. Like, think about it. At some point, the indigenous people had to just say, and honestly, too, I mean, call it what it was. These guys, you could smell them coming from way, way off because, man, they have their own way of looking at the world, and
Right.
in their way of looking at the world, taking showers were bad, you
Yeah.
know,
You're right.
traveling
Right.
with women, like that was the main thing. The indigenous people said, "Dude, where's their women? ¿Dónde están las mujeres? No hay ninguna mujer." Like they didn't bring a single woman with them. Like, whoa, like damn, who are these? Like,
Wow.
and you just gotta
Insane.
think of those concepts because
Right.
at this point, okay, women run the indigenous world.
Mm,
Women is the seed of life. Like that's the respectful. They run everything. Okay,
mm,
they run everything. And they say, hey, go find out what these guys want to. And the thing is, and sadly, Ruben, it's just a change and it's a paradigm shift.
yeah.
And go ahead.
No, no. Yeah. I'm
I was
I'm
just saying, what's
disagreeing with you.
crazy, Ruben? Okay, is that in terms of the math and the calendar and the timing, we're entering a lunar cycle in 1419 or 1519. So we're entering the solar cycle. So The Aztec calendar is telling you that we're entering a time of darkness, and
Mm,
so darkness begins and is complete by 1532.
mm,
And so I always tell people that, that this was foretold, and they knew that there was a change coming, but they had no idea what was coming. And I mean, how could they understand a sickness that you get by procreating or fornicating with animals? It's something we didn't do. So
right.
then, we don't have defenses against those type of things. And so, that type of warfare, germ warfare, was very, decimated our people,
Yeah.
because we lived in an open, natural, relationship with nature. And even we were very sexual beings, Reuben,
Mm,
and there was no sickness, and women knew when they could have children and when they couldn't. They were
mm,
the first to be educated. And
mm.
so, but
Well, they culminated all those knowledges, right? All the knowledges from all
well,
the
yes,
people.
okay. So, Reuben, that's the thing,
Yes.
is it to be a Mexica? I mean, really, brother, to be a Mexica, like it helps to know science, math, biology,
Mm,
so
mhm,
like the Mexica really were into gathering information and trying to floss that information,
mhm,
trying to
mhm,
floss being, and Ruben, being the best dancer, having the
mm,
best traje,
mhm,
having the best food,
mm,
like being able to show, because a term that's, it's very Mexica is that mi casa es tu casa,
mm.
that's an extension of me,
It
and
makes
so
sense, Daniel, in the sense that if we look at the destiny calendar, I don't know
yes.
if it's the Tona Lama, right? We
Well,
look
the
at the
Tonalamat's the
uh,
book, Ruben, and
okay,
the Tonal Machiot, well,
uh,
the Tonal Puali is the
Tona
calendar.
Puali, that's the one that I
Yeah.
could it just kept going out of my head. If okay, so you said that we were very, you know, to our best potential, right? Like we had, if we had feathers, we wanted it to be very
Yes.
beautiful, big feathers, and
Right, right,
if we
right.
were danza, we wanted to be the
Yes,
best danzante, so
yes.
we'd work that hard. But if we take our mind out of Western thought and put it into the Mexica thought, into the sacred calendar that gave you a sacred day, right? And you're
Right.
trying to live up to the potential of that energy
Yeah,
at full
for sure,
potential,
for
using
sure.
the calendar, using the sacred 260-day calendar to birth new things in your life, not just a baby. It's to birth an idea, to
It
birth a family, to
Well,
birth a
Ruben,
relationship,
Ruben, take a moment, Ruben, to think about something. If you're gonna do that, Ruben, where do you look? Do you look straight? Do you look down? Or do you look up at the sky?
Right, right.
Because our people look up at the sky.
Mm-hmm,
And so all those things are maps of the sky.
mm-hmm,
We just don't know it yet.
mm.
Because we well, not we, but the society that we live in, they didn't value what we
Devalued it.
valued,
Yeah, they
you know.
devalued it.
And so
That information.
and that was the thing, Ruben, that to me, I thought to myself, and people would say, "Oh, damn, you got to write a book." No, man, no, I don't want to do that. I had seen that a lot of writing would get plagiarized or would just be, just ruined, And so what I figured, I think, okay, you know what? We don't read books, but we do wear clothes. And but really, Ruben, what really came to me was that I was as a teacher. My mother had passed away in 1997, and so I ended up going back teaching after college. And man, I noticed that the kids were just wearing mierda, like, and
Mhm,
I'd tell them, man, what are you wearing? And they'd, teacher, this is the WWF, or, and I'd be like,
mm,
oh man. And then they'd ask me the best question. Well, teacher, what are we supposed to wear? And I was like,
mm,
you got me. You're right. You're right. And so then I thought about it. I started mulling around and I went back to that. And now I thought, oh, you know what, man? I need to give these kids something to wear. I need to give them something, and so my thought was, okay, I'm gonna just make a clothing line and I'm gonna call it a Nawak because that's what you got to educate people about the name of the land and where we're from,
mm,
And so, and the thing is a Nawak is just one name of a tribe here. That's what they called it. Other people called it different things, Ruben, but
mm,
it's just it's something that we used, and I was taught. It's like, oh man, that made sense to me. And so, what I liked about it is that Nahuatl, which is the language, goes from Alaska in the north to Nicaragua in the south. And Nicaragua it ends, and so it's almost like we could say Nicanawak, which means aquí es donde termina o empieza a Nahuac. This is where it begins or ends. And
mm.
so, and you can see the language changes when it's south of Nicaragua. And so that language group is the northern continent. And when I studied geography or geology, they said that back in the day, the Cocos Plate, there was an earthquake that came up and it unified the central Central America. Before they were actually separate. It was
Mm.
actually an island, which kind of leads to why North was its own piece, and so.
Mhm.
But then I took the idea of, okay, so what I was going to do, I was going to put the Nahuatl word on the top, and then on the bottom I'd put English and Spanish.
Mm.
And so, I mean, it was a cool idea at first, but man, Reuben, oh my God, it's just that type of information pulls out the ignorance and the intelligence out of everybody,
Mm.
And
Mm.
so I realized that it just was too much for some people. But at the same time, I kind of used it to differentiate us because I remember the guy, I love that guy. You remember George from Chicano Nation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that guy. I mean, OG, man. And so he
Mhm.
says, man, I always remember when you told people why, because someone told me, they said, hey, you spelled Quetzalcoatl wrong.
Mm.
And I thought, I giggle like, okay, really? I spelled it. So I showed him the glyph, which is actually what I'm wearing right now. Okay. And I said, okay, show
So
me on here where you could tell where it's a K or a Q. And he just kind of looked at me like, oh, and I said, okay, bro, but I'm just going to tell you why. I said, because in Nahuatl, it's not conducive to consistency to use syllables that have two distinct different sounds.
Mm.
Does that make sense, Ruben?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
basically, I'll give you the example. The letter C, okay,
Mm.
the letter C.
Mhm.
What's the sound that C makes, Ruben?
Cut. Yeah. See, cut.
Cut.
No.
Are you sure?
Well, that's what I've been taught.
Well,
I
have you
remember
heard
being
it?
taught.
Have you heard Siwat spelled with a C?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so why? When you have an S, why would you? Okay, so but my point is, when they were teaching us about Nahuatl, they said, well, what happens is you got archaeologists and anthropologists.
Mm.
They're not people that know language, so
Mm.
they write the words the way it's like, oh damn, okay. And they said, we as indigenous people, we write our words with phonetic sounds so that you can't say it wrong. And
Mm.
it's so true, and so, and I remember on one of the podcasts, and someone was, I guess, correcting me, spelling with a C, and I just thought it's just funny to me, because
Mm.
I joke and I say, "Oh, your name is Kitlali." No, it's Citlali. I said, "But it's a C." No, but it's an S sound. Like, okay, well, it's okay.
Yeah.
But did you get what
Look,
I'm saying? And
I
so,
get what you're saying because colonial languages they fucked us big time because we were an
yes,
oral tradition. We
right,
taught with
right,
song, we taught with claps, we taught with other
yeah,
things than writing it down and memorizing, trying to remember,
right.
phonetic sounds
But here's
that
the thing, Ruben. But
you use
I
in
would
different
Right, but I would
situations.
never come out and say, "Well, I'm gonna teach this Nahuatl class, on the Nahuatl language." No, no, we
Mhm.
don't do that. What I would do is my approach is I'm gonna teach you about the Mexica culture.
Mm.
And by teaching about the Mexica culture, I use the Tonal Machiotl as the instrument to teach you that. And
Mhm.
as I teach you about information using the Tonal Machiotl, you're going to naturally learn the language and you're going to learn it appropriately. You're
Mhm.
not going to learn it like just some fool says, I'm going to teach. Okay, well, what are you going to teach? What are you going to teach? The numbers? Like there's an order to everything, Ruben,
Mm.
and it's like as we begin to understand it, it makes sense to us. It's
Mm.
kind of like if I said, okay, I'm going to teach you about a car and I'm just going to throw a fucking cylinder at you. And okay, this is part of the car, like
Mm.
what does this have to do with it? And well,
Right,
it's
right.
part of the car, but no, but you got to, again, to Ruben, that's just me being a teacher, that my
Mhm.
thing is to educate people about our culture.
Right.
Because I believe that we're living in a time where we're gathering more culture. We're not letting it go because we were washed of our culture, by the colonial system did that,
Mhm.
it did it through language, it did it through food, through diet, but above all from removing us from our land, you
Mm.
know. And so, but we're still on our land, Ruben. And it's like, many of
Oh,
us had to buy back our land,
I
but
think I think right there, that's a good point. I want to say something about that because they took us from the connection we had with it, not the actual, because we're still
right,
here,
right,
we
right,
still and then we go, but the law says we can't do this. But who brought that law,
right, right,
right?
right, right. And
So
even
then
when you
there's
look at,
this
yes,
invisible shield of nothing that doesn't. What I'm trying to say is that when you are sovereign and you have a sovereign outlook, right, which is mainly what Daniel was trying to explain, is the sovereignty of it, right? Spell it with the
right,
C, who cares? Spell it with the K, who cares? Doesn't matter. We're both trying to say the same thing,
right, right.
right?
Well,
Um,
but at the same time, Ruben, what I was going to say though, here's the thing: is that there's a code. Okay, there's
mm,
a code that's used because it's an oral language. So
right.
what I, if when I look at the words, like I look for the sound, and the sound is the code. And so when I could, okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, Teo Tihuacan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Teo is telling you, okay, Teo is sacred. That's something that's sacred. It's something that's sacred that you don't see, but it exists. We acknowledge it, so
Mm-hmm.
that, and the fact that it's not te, it's the whole word Teo. That's saying, okay, that's a strong energy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
then you get T is the center. Okay, so Teo Ti Wakan. Wakan is a place. It's like where's another that, think of another word that has it's funny, huracan, but that word denotes a place. So you've got a place that's the center of sacred energy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Teotihuacan. They call
Absolutely.
it, when it's translated, it said the city of the gods.
Mm.
So somehow
Oh no, the
colonial,
city where men became gods. That's what I heard. The city where
well,
men became
that's a better, but also too, it's where we went and we metaphorically died so that we didn't have to worry about fearing death.
mm,
So you went there and through a ceremony, you died. And it's true, Ruben, like once you don't fear death, we truly live,
mm,
and
mm,
so I hate to say it, man. I got fear knocked out of me, man. And so it's, people don't understand it. People
mm.
think I'm weird as shit because I'm not scared. And it's like,
It's because we use a language that really we try to translate. It's kind of like translating a word in Chinese, and you're going. It's kind of like that, like we're
right,
saying
right.
apple, but it's not really an apple. It's a specific type of.
But
You know
Ruben,
what I mean? It's like
no, no. But here's the thing,
you're
Ruben.
using a word that's totally not that, but believe
Right,
it's
right.
that.
But here's the thing, is that it's funny when people get attached to language and meaning, and like again too, it's like this whole thing of in Dios. It's like they want to say that in Dios means in God, okay? But
Mhm,
when you talk about indecent or intolerant or immovable, it's like, oh well, that means without. It's like,
mhm,
well, dude, get your law straight, man, because the thing is, they're all speaking in English, but everyone was speaking in Spanish when all the shit was being broken down, and so it's like,
mhm.
man, if you don't speak Spanish, you're gonna have to translate to get to, and so it trips
And
me
then
out. I remember again to clearly get
And then when we
mocked. And
think of Spanish, you think of Spanish, right? You're going, oh, wow, he speaks like in Mexico. People speak Spanish in Mexico. No, they don't.
they
They
do,
speak a type of Spanish, right?
but
They have their
Ruben,
own slang and their own
right, right.
meanings for
But what I'm
things. And
saying is that if you only speak English, you're so limited on what the Mexica did and what they were about. Like, fuck, you're so limited. Like, it's like, man, you can read maybe 3 books, but if you read Spanish, there's a plethora. I mean, you couldn't even have enough time to read all the books, and so it's like
yeah.
that and I understand that
And
because
there are
that was
great
my
authors like Arturo Mesa and other great, individuals who took massive amounts of time to break
right.
down so much information. I
Well, and
mean,
that's the thing, Ruben. That's why personally, if out there, and I'm not going to say the guy's name, but there's a guy out there that threw shit on Arturo Mesa. And I was like, what? You
mm,
said that guy's full of shit, and then after he said I'm full of shit, like, dude, someday, somewhere, we're gonna meet. But it doesn't even matter because
mm,
when you say that type of shit about elders, that just says about who you are. And
mm,
obviously, people like that weren't raised by anybody of discipline or anybody of respect because man, I'm raised in a a family of people that we have respect for the people that have come before us
mm,
because we know that everything that's laid out here, man, people had worked hard for all this. Like my dad, like I take care of my dad today because man, that guy busted his ass for me when what I mean. Like it's
mhm,
just it's who we are,
mhm,
like it's like to be ungrateful or to be disrespectful, like that's not the Mexica, and
mm.
that's you've been colonized.
Right.
That's colonization, because
Absolutely.
we're not, and that was the thing too,
I
Ruben, is
think
that
I think to prove ownership of anything, like what I'm saying by that is saying, oh, but I read this book that
right,
discredits you
right,
because I'm taking ownership of this knowledge because you don't have that ownership. I have
right,
it. Look, I read this book, and
right,
this is
right,
my point.
right,
That's just it's what we all have that was given to us, which is called self-importance, right? The self-importance we have to learn to defeat because that's why you don't get into arguments with people because obviously you're not going to change their mind.
right,
I'm not going to change their mind. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I'm being myself. If
right, right.
myself reflects
But you know
something
what, though, too, you're right, Ruben.
said or whatever,
But I
that's
would
on
say
you.
this, Ruben, and I would think of it, and this, man. With Anawak as well as with Vu, we would travel and we'd meet so many people, and we'd really get to by meeting people and hearing different stories and experiences. Man, it was so enlightening. And I want to share with you one time, and I think this is what I tried to say. This is what Anawak was about. We were in Seattle, if you could remember, and we were
Mm,
outside and we were selling art pieces and stuff, and there was a lot of jade there, and this guy came by and he said, oh, what are you selling? Oh, we're selling some jade. Is that he looked down, he's like, he saw 50, $100, and he was like, I can't believe you pay that for stones, those are just rocks. It was
mm,
like,
mm,
okay. And so I thought, all right, bro, you know what, are you down? Do you want to comment? He goes, yeah, what do you have to say? I said, well, hey, let me ask you this. He was with his girl there, and nice couple. And I said, hey, well, do you think someday that you'll maybe want to ask her hand in marriage? I was, oh, well, that's kind of horrible, but yeah, I'm sure. He said, well, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to do that? What are you going to offer her? He goes, oh, well, I'll get her a ring. I said, oh, you get her a ring? What are you going to have in that ring? What is that? Is that a diamond? He goes, oh
mm,
yeah. I said, but isn't that a rock? He just said, he just stopped. And I said, yeah,
right.
bro, come on, man. I said, what, people value different things, man. And like, you value a rock, but now you're saying, this is foolish, but how much you pay for that diamond, that rock?
Mm,
And, oh
mm,
man, he just stopped. And I was just like, you know what? It's that, for me, at least, it's that ability to get this guy to just think a little bit, and instead of just saying, "Oh, you guys are dumb with rocks." But
mm, mm,
after he was like, "Man, okay, thank you," and I was like, "Okay, cool." And I feel like that a lot of times life throws us that opportunity to make a difference, and I believe as Mexicas, we just have more options, Ruben.
mm,
We learn to take a breath, and to
mm,
because the thing is for me, and I'm a hopeless romantic, and so being a Mexica, we resonate from our heart.
mm,
And so if you resonate from your heart, people feel that energy. And it's when you walk into a room and people just kind of like, they just feel it. And
mm,
I try to teach it to people and get them to understand it. It's just, when you let that energy flow, Ruben, I get it. Like, say, I'm thinking about you and then you'll call.
mm, mm,
And it's that connection because we're all connected. It's just how much are we willing to let go of those things that hold us back from feeling it, and
mm.
then just being open to it.
Right, right.
Opening your heart.
What you were saying, that it reminds me of something that I saw recently, some Netflix on documentary, and how trees extend
Right,
roots that intertwine with each other. So
right.
on the top surface of the the visual part of the tree, they look separate, but on the bottom and the dirt, their roots are kind of intertwined and
Yeah,
creating
right.
messages for each other. So
Yes.
they communicate through each other to each other through the root system,
Right,
right? And
right,
some
right,
fungus and algae that get attached to the root system. I started thinking about that, and I was like, dang, that's like the brain, right?
right, right.
Every experience sprouts a certain root that we call a memory.
Well, I mean,
Right?
I was taught we were there at the school, they said that our brain is a metaphor for the galaxy, Ruben.
Wow.
That and it's true. I think that
Sprouting new experiences,
and
sprouting
just how
new
we can create things, and
uh,
I think that and kind of going back
realities.
to a Nawak, is it what I did, Ruben? That experience really changed my life. And then seeing the kids needed something, and so what I did is that I decided to kind of take the foundation of what they taught me. So I started with Ometeo. Ometeo was the first energy that they shared with us about creation, and Ometeotl is literally the dual energy of creation. And I took that symbol from the Arturo Mesa book that I got at that book festival, and that was
Mm,
the Museico Turquesa. I think it was a turquoise mosaic.
mm,
Man, that book was just incredible. And the things I studied all those classes there at the university, but then it was amazing to find literature and to find people that were reinforcing what I was learning. And so I always tell people that I used to always be concerned that, oh man, I'm going to be giving a lecture and people are going to hear the same thing. But then I think it's good, Ruben, because that's how we begin to imprint the information that it comes to you consistently, and it should be consistent. And so it's that's, I think it's important for us, especially like you looking at the calendar and the days to be in the right time. Because
yeah.
you look at the colonization of the colonized system, Ruben,
Mm,
they ran out of time.
mm.
They have no concept of time, and they already ran out of it, and so they're
I
out of
mean,
time.
more so than that, everybody's looking at that time as being fraudulent,
Right.
right?
Well,
It's
it
not
is.
accurate to anything. What is it
Right.
accurate to? It has this weird leap year, and it just it tells you when to pay taxes. That's it.
You're
Really.
right.
It tells
Well,
you, hey,
Ruben, I
you
mean,
owe money.
right, right.
That's what really a Gregorian calendar does. But
Right.
when you start to look at sophisticated calendar systems, and I guess that's a beautiful thing to go to a place, learn wisdom, and then
Right,
want to
right.
share it with a
Yes,
community
yes,
that
yeah,
any community, because
right.
I know you did reggae on the river. I know you did things that were maybe not specifically
Well,
like
here's
a
the thing, Ruben.
powwow or something that revolved around
Right.
indigenous
Well,
things.
well,
Like you would take a
originally,
nawak everywhere. You
well,
know,
here's
that was it.
right, right. I mean, originally it was just we the first show was the CABE, the California Association of Bilingual Educators, and we did that show, and that was funny. I remember seeing Masat sitting there blowing his conch shell,
Mm,
putting on a
mm.
show,
Mm.
and so it was really an interesting thing. But man, it was a hit from the get go. But Ruben, it was funny. Just being new to it, I was so dumb. Like, didn't really have any girl shirts, didn't do any double X's, like only did a couple of black shirts. Like, man, just dumb stuff, And
Mm.
so it took a while, but really, Ruben, that information sheet, it was all about the info sheet because people would take the sheet and then they'd take off and then they'd come back and say, "Hey, do you have this symbol?" And it was like, okay, that really worked out for us. And I mean, being a teacher and just wanting to share the information, my thing was this: is that even if you don't buy a shirt, even if you don't,
Yeah,
you
you walk
know,
away with something. You walk
yeah,
away
that
with a
you'll
little
know that, hey,
spark.
this land's called the Nawak, and
Yeah.
and it just, and the thing is that I
Or
tried
not
to
even,
make
or not even in that sense, Daniel. This land was once called the Nawak. By
right,
who? By those people. Whoa, who
right,
are those people? Fuck, man, they had a bunch of wisdom. I want to be like those people. You
right.
know, it's not
Well, the
so
thing
much
is,
when we
but
go.
Ruben, those people are us people now,
No, but what I'm trying to say or point out is that we have to switch the colonial perspective of
Right, right,
ownership. We do
right,
not own this land. We
right.
do
We never
not
did.
own it.
Right.
We
But
never
Ruben,
owned it. It owns us.
right, right.
It
But Ruben, it's a
owns
native
us.
saying.
We have a responsibility to it, not it has a responsibility
Right,
for
right,
me. It switched that.
right,
We want the land back. Act like it.
right, right,
Appreciate it. When you go to the beach, take a deep breath, close
right,
your eyes,
right,
and know that
right.
you're a part of that.
For sure.
Right?
No, for
That's
sure.
what I feel land back is, right?
Right,
I don't
right.
need no white man's paper to say, hey, you know what, brother? We're good now. Here's your
The
fucking
thing is,
land back. And
Ruben,
I'm
it's a
going to give you
very
this paper to say that this line right here and this line over here and this line over here is your land. I'm separating a little piece of land for you, right? What a fucking scam.
well,
When I
Ruben.
could not recognize your paper, not recognize your map, and look at land as far as I could see, where I
Right,
can walk to, build that, live on, and have a relationship with it.
right.
That to me is land back.
Well, I mean, I agree, and I think it's what's kind of sad is that what you just said there. That's what is it? Randolph Hearst did. He
Mm.
stood up on a mountain and said, "I'm going to buy everything I could see," and he did, and he bought
Yeah.
everything he could see, and so I mean that's
And
that's
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 how they use police to enforce, land,
right,
whatever
right.
boundaries or whatever the fuck they want to call it.
Right, right, right. But I mean, the thing is, but Ruben, it's a native saying, and it's a very true saying. And if you understand this saying, you'll understand why the land could have never been sold. Is that the land belongs to our children. It
Mm.
doesn't belong to us.
Mhm.
So the land belongs to our children. So as long as the land belongs to our children, we don't have the authority to give that. We have to be stewards to that land and stewards to that place. And so that concept never changed.
Mm.
The natives still kept that. And even though they put us in places that were the worst place and turned out to be nothing there but gold and silver. But
Oh, you
there
guys
was
gonna move over there now?
right. And so, but again, to Ruben, it's just that whole invasion culture.
Mm.
And the thing is
But
that
it can be challenged. It can be
yeah, it
challenged
has to
with
be right,
fact,
right, right.
facts, intellect, intelligence.
Hey, but
None of
Ruben,
this. Notice that I have not said violence yet.
no, because we don't need violence. Violence is just when you lost.
Right.
And we haven't
That's a
lost.
last resort.
Right, right. Because we do
It's
things
when you
without
use
putting our hands
violence, you should know that you're already gonna die.
right,
When you use violence,
right,
right? When you're gonna take an arm against someone, you should know that you're already taking your own life, right? Because at one point you're gonna get taken
right.
your life
Well, Ruben,
either
I
by
also
his
think
brother, his cousin, his
right,
friend, his uncle, his grandmother. Who gives a shit? They love that person, and
but
they don't give
Ruben
a shit
too.
why you were fighting. They just know that
Right,
he's
right.
gone.
Hey, but on that land back issue, Ruben, I just want to say real quick. I think that we got to do. And one of your guests said it is true. For those of us that have studied the land grants and Reyes Tejerina, it's true that we need to vote in political people that support us and are about passing legislation that's in favor of our people. And we have a majority of people, but they just got to take off those coconut shells and realize that, that's not your culture. That's not your place. It's okay to have humanity for a people, but it's time to just, take the side of people. Because really, as a group, they're just always fucking with us, man. Just leave us alone already,
They will
And like,
always. Why wouldn't they? They feel you are less. They always felt you are less. They'll
right,
never, ever, ever one day go, hey, you know what? That fucking guy, look, even if you went, Daniel, and did a presentation on the constellations and how they relate to us and what energies are and how the water affects us and
right,
certain places do things and this is what happens in this season, they'll go,
right,
oh, look at his mumbo jumbo, superstitious bullshit.
right. But Ruben,
They're never gonna go, fuck, you know what? That makes sense.
but it's okay, Ruben,
Yeah.
because man, okay, they call that whatever they want to call it, that our reality is.
Superstitious mumbo jumbo.
Okay, but
Yeah.
here's the thing, Ruben. What's their shit?
Right.
Okay, so okay,
Just
like,
believe in this one
you know what I
guy
mean? Like,
who killed himself for everyone for the span of time. He sounds like he was an exploding star that left everything,
right. Hey,
all
but
the
Ruben,
minerals we needed for the rest of our lives.
hey, but check it out, Ruben. After I die, the calendar's still going to be there. All
Yeah.
the teachings are still going to be there, and it's only
Mhm.
growing. It's not diminishing. Like, there's how do you say it? Like, they talked about the Mexica weren't threatened by invaders because they were such a great force,
Mhm.
and so
Well, they
I
were
don't think
well
they hit.
organized. They were well
Right,
organized. These
right,
individuals were not. You don't have a city with no trash or
right,
a specific.
right,
Everything that was Mexico or the ancient city of Tenochtitlan, it according to the Spaniards, it looked like heaven,
well, Ruben,
right?
let's get something straight. Run by women, okay? Don't
Or
get
women had
twisted.
a voice, at least. Women had
No,
a voice. You know?
Ruben, women ran shit, man, and that's
Yeah, no,
that's
they had political. I mean, or they had
okay.
palabra, right?
Ruben, let's take a second, okay? Look at Day of the Dead, okay?
Mm.
Look at Day of the Dead. Who do you see out there cleaning all everything?
I
I
know
mean,
what you mean. I know what you mean. But what I want to bring is value to the male counterpart.
okay. I mean, okay.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. I'm,
all
I'm
right.
not.
I mean,
I'm
hey,
not trying
but
to.
here's the thing,
I'm
Ruben.
not trying to.
I don't mean to
That would
lessen.
that would be like idolizing men for being strong and protectors, and I don't want to do that. I want to go. Look, we both had value,
Right,
and when a woman talked, we sat down and we listened to her opinion
right,
because it had value to us.
right,
Because
right,
she gave the instructions for us to go and build or set up what we needed to set up.
right.
She had, it was like a right hand and a left hand. That's what I
Right.
want to
No,
point
exactly,
out.
Ruben. And so, okay, that being said, Ruben, I just need to make it clear that that was the one of the biggest things was that the Mexica, the way they were able to maintain a lot of rituals and things was because the Spanish did not believe that women had that capacity.
Yeah.
So they weren't tripping off of
Really.
them organizing or doing things on the underground, but the men, they knew they in their world, men were everything. And so if you look at it today, like man, we live in a very, male run, male centered world. And
You could
it's
trace
like
that
Lord of the
somewhere.
Flies.
Where would you trace that male energy, dominance? You could
Ruben,
trace that to
it's when man
Rome.
becomes creator. When man becomes creator is when he fucking got bigger than he should have,
But
because
that's
man
what
doesn't
you could
carry
trace it
babies.
to Rome. You could trace it to
Right,
Rome.
right.
It
That's what I'm
was
saying. And
all
so, yeah, and those
fucking,
guys,
you know what I mean? Like
they
all of
weren't
it, it
into
was all
women.
males. It was
Right. They
all
weren't into
males.
women. You're right, right. And so for me, brother, I
Women didn't
can't.
have a valuable voice. They had
Right,
to do it in secret. They had
right,
to
right,
go, hey,
right.
you should go
And so,
tell
but
this.
the thing is, Ruben, we're suffering that, and that's the thing too. Is that like I realize that women are 51% of the population, Ruben.
Mm,
51. We're 49.
mm.
The nature knows how to keep the numbers straight, and so there's always more men being born than women. But here's the thing, Ruben, is that how do you crush a culture? Well, you crush the children. Well, how do you crush the children? You crush the women.
Yeah,
And so this is a
absolutely.
very, it's the root of, because the thing is that, I was telling you the other day that, I got in the mail my Aztec Virgin book,
Yeah,
and so I'm rereading books because just kind of getting back into rereading and going over things. And man, there was a passage there that really was so profound to me. It's like when the invasion began, it changed the role of women in the Mexica world, because at that point was the only place in the world where women were held and were part of high esteem in the society. And that not only for Tenochtitlan, but all of the native world. That in the rest of the world, women were, you know,
Yeah. Mistreated.
or
Mistreated.
a carry-on, Ruben.
Oh,
Yeah, just
a
and
burden.
it's like, man, how do you do that with the mother of your children? Like, man, if you're creator, because to us, Ruben, creator, it's literally, it's like the first one. Sewatl literally means the first one in water, and
Mm.
so it isn't that I'm trying to say, but it's just that Ruben, they're the stronger, uh, you know, gene. Like they carry babies, man. Like
No, I agree. I'm not trying to devalue them
right.
at
No, I know
all,
you're not,
but
Ruben.
I'm not trying to put them on an because I know, and I'm only going off of my experience in my own family, right?
Right, right, of
A lot
course.
of a lot of the time, a lot of our beginning relationship was male dominated, right?
Right,
Because I was still under patriarchal understanding, right? I haven't given up all the colonial shit that I learned until I
right,
started
right,
looking in my own mirror. How
right.
did I do that? By shutting up and listening to my partner because she's
Right.
smart.
Yeah,
She's smart. And sometimes we don't agree. Sometimes she tries to dominate and all of a sudden she has all the answers, right?
yeah,
But when we click and respect each other's opinion, then there's no conflict and the intention gets put out, right?
right,
Like
right.
Malenali Superfood storefront, like plant-based Aslan, like all the Ali Nada's podcast. She was
Right,
one of the
right,
first people on with
right,
me. I
right,
didn't have no guests.
Absolutely.
She
right.
was right here. She's not here every podcast,
Yeah,
but what I love that you're doing is bringing or breaking the colonial perspective of
right,
women.
right,
They
right,
have value, and their value is not in how beautiful they are and how can
right,
they sexually satisfy you.
right,
Their
right,
value is being able to tell you the truth with love. That is a fucking valuable thing
right,
because when you give a male counterpart that connection, then big things happen.
right, right,
Big things happen. And I'm glad that you brought that up. And I'm glad that because that is one humongous root in our culture.
right. Well, Ruben, and I would just say, just on a quick snippet, I've just found in my experience having my company, a lot of times I've had guys that work with me and I've had females that work with me, and the guys always somehow became the owner too, and the girls always were just trying to just impress and show, work hard. And it was like just a different reason for succeeding, and so
Mm,
I tripped out off of that. I thought, man, and I remember my dad telling me, Emil, you need to start hiring more women. And he was like, fuck, you're right, Dad. And it's true because, Ruben, and again, too, it's part of the colonial system, man. I mean, people look at me, oh, that dark skinned guy, that can't be the owner. It needs to be, it's like, okay,
mm,
well, and so the things for me, I just, I'm the owner. So there's nothing really I could, you can say whatever you want. The truth is the truth, and
mm.
so, but again, I just found, as I gotten older, I realized, that it's true. And it's just too, Ruben, man. A lot of us, we're not
Well, you
ready,
know what
right?
I liked about our culture is that when you had a symbol, it usually had a female counterpart to it.
Right, right,
Right?
right. Duality.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Mictlan.
duality was
Mictlan
important.
Tecutli and
Yes, Miklan
Siwa
Siwa.
Tecutli. Yeah,
Right.
Mictlan Siwa. There you go. Mictlan Siwa.
And you know what,
And so
Ruben? When you look at that, the books by Arturo Mesa Gutierrez, he
mm,
breaks all that down, man. And it just that's a really kind of. But again, too, when we studied, they broke that down too. That every energy had its male and female part. And so,
mm,
but with that being said, let me share this. Okay, so when I started at Nawak, the first symbol that we did was this one was Quetzalcoatl,
mm,
and so it worked out good because my friend he had worked at a silkscreen company, and so he gave me a deal. He said, "I'm going to give you 100 shirts for $60." He said,
whoa.
"Yeah, take those and sell them, and if you could sell them, then you could rebuy." And okay, it was cool. So we did that, Ruben, and oh man, it went good. We went and did this, and I started to do T-shirts, sweatshirts, and we really caught on. We started to do double X's. Then we really caught on. We said, "Man, we got to start selling girl stuff."
Mm,
Once we started selling girl stuff, then the company actually made it. We
mm,
really began to, and women were just, and that's why I was just like, duh, they went on in my head. It's like, you want to make it, sell to women, and they
yeah.
were just better consumers. They were just, they cared. And not saying the guys weren't, but we didn't need to. If I had girls, like a whole girl section, and just had like a table of men's shirts, the guys would just grab the shirts, but they were just staring at the girls the whole time.
Mm,
And so it was
mm,
just, it is what it was. But our company really was able to expand by doing women's clothes, because
right.
we got to do more designs. And, and the things, that's what I was going to say. So the
That
first
was the cool thing that I noticed in your booth was that when women saw, I don't know, for instance, a butterfly, an Aztec symbol of a
right,
butterfly,
right,
or goyo shauki
right,
or
right,
whatever
right,
on
right.
a dress, they
Yes,
felt like I need that dress because it
right, right,
represents
right,
me
right.
completely, right?
Yes,
And it
yes,
does because if you're telling me that goyo shauki is not the moon, it's the actual constellations of stars,
yes, yes,
and
yes,
it
yes.
does represent you,
And we
and it
always
should be
explain that,
exciting
Ruben.
that you get the opportunity to buy that stuff, you know?
Right, right. And I mean, the thing is, Ruben, it's such a beautiful thing, and it was I don't know. The thing is that people, it's power, Ruben. When
Mm,
you've got a symbol of power, and I always said, we're gonna make it because we've got 5,000 years of advertising behind us. You
yeah.
know, because I would only put a symbol on the shirts if I knew what it meant, and that's
Mm,
all I did. All I did
mm,
was stuff that I knew what it meant. And so,
mm,
we started off with Ometeo, then we did Huitzilopochtli, Tezcatlipoca. Well, initially we started with Quetzalcoatl, so I did the four directions, and then
mm,
we did Mictlan, and then we also did well, we did Ometeo, and then I'm trying to think of the other ones, Huitzilopochtli,
mm,
um, and then man, I think that was pretty much it. Oh, we also did Metzli,
mm.
and
Yeah.
then also Colishalqui, and then eventually we did other stuff, and I don't know if you guys got the email, Ruben, but I sent you an email, the information sheets. I don't know
Oh,
if you guys
I
got them.
haven't checked it.
Yes, I think I did.
So that give you an idea, because I think people sometimes, if you just see the sheet, you'll know who we were, because yeah, we would go places, and sometimes I'd be bummed, and I'd be like seeing the sheets on the ground, but then a lot of times people just said, "Hey man, can I make copies of this?" I'm like, "Hey man, take it, run
Yeah.
with it."
That's the one thing that was a big impression on me, especially when, in my early journeys of El Vuh and picking out what I'm gonna, wear to represent my
Right,
music
right,
and my fashion or whatever it
right,
is at the
right,
time. That information sheet really convinced me, like, wow, now I'm wearing a symbol that I know something about, at least a little bit, right?
right,
And,
right,
and then if I could see that symbol somewhere else and learn more, because it doesn't stop there.
right,
It doesn't
right,
stop at knowing the little definition that you got from Daniel or a Nawak, because you have to take that and build on it and grow it and learn more and more and more, because the learning is infinite. It's how you're taking it sovereignly and how you're digesting it and applying it to your
right,
daily,
right, right.
right? The
And
concept of Ometeo.
it was really a challenge, Ruben, but it was an amazing challenge. And the thing was, is that I realized, okay, and it's like I noticed today, how people are, they're very local, and we were, I came out of the Bay, we moved to LA, and then I realized we just got to promote to Anahuac, go to everywhere we could. And like, we spent a December in Acapulco, we went up with you guys up to Canada, and then,
Mhm,
we've been out to, man, New York, Wisconsin, Madison, Colorado. We went Kansas. Like we tried to go anywhere that they invited us, and so
mhm,
and it turned out that we did, it was a good thing, Ruben, because initially the shirts, people liked the shirts, but then people really fell in love with the art and all the stuff that I would get, because as we began to I began to buy art to display, to kind of show people what the culture was. The art really began to sell very well. And so it,
right.
it, it allowed me to go to Mexico City like maybe once every 2 months. And then I
Mm,
moved to LA, and then just began to go from Mexico City to LA, and Teotihuacan, going there and having merchants there, and being able to get good art, at a good price, and then being able to come and sell it. And then
mm,
just doing the festivals and traveling, it was really such an experience, Ruben,
mm,
and for that time too, when I was managing you guys, being able to take you with me, and everywhere I went, El Vu went too. But
absolutely.
you guys were basically singing what I was already learning about and talking about. And
Right.
so, and even like, say, John Meany with that book, that guy gave us, back in the day, he gave us like 60 cases of that book.
Wow.
And so we just were given opportunities, Ruben. And I just think, man, I remember I was getting audited by the IRS because, man, my car, we said we traveled 200,000 miles in a year, you know, and we did, we
Yeah, you
went all these
probably did.
places,
Yeah, yeah.
and And it's funny too because I remember you talk about back in the day because when we started Reuben, there weren't any shows. There
Mm,
really weren't, and
mm.
I had to buy a little red book. It was about festivals, and then we would go to the universities, and give thanks. People were receptive to us, at USC, UC San Diego, San Francisco State, like just a lot of cool people around, and it's just amazing, man. When
Well, that's the one thing that I do remember about Anahuac. And like I said before, like Reggae on the River, you're like, hey, that's a reggae event. Like, why you have like Aztec or
right,
any
right,
indigenous
right,
anything where people into it. And I know we would sit there and talk for hours about like, yo, all these people were coming and buying art and buying, you know,
right,
whatever
right.
it was. I remember one time he told me that some guy had a sack of cacao beans and he wanted to
Right.
give
Oh, that
you,
was classic.
he wanted to
Right.
give you for what, a sweater or a shirt?
Right. Yeah, we did. We traded. It was all good. I mean, yeah, no, it was the
A
trades
sack
all
of
good.
cacao beans. Come on, that's
Oh man.
classic, bro. Like, I mean, if someone
No,
gave me
Ruben,
a
it's
sack of
it's
cacao
it's
beans
no,
for
it was
something,
good. The thing is, Ruben, it's so classic. Like, man, just the things I would hear. Like, I remember in New Mexico. Okay, it's an interesting story. This guy just beelined it straight to the booth and said, "Hey, that shirt right there, what is it?" And it was the Hunab Ku.
mm,
I said, "Oh, that's the Hunab Ku. It's a measure and movement. It's a Mayan form of creation." He goes, "That's all it is." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I'm in the Navy and I saw that thing in the water." And I was like, "Oh shit.
what?
What?" He says, "Yeah, I saw that and it came out and there were lights." And I was like, "Yeah, bro, I don't know
What
about
the
that." But, like and I was like, "Okay, but but it was that symbol right there." And I was like, "All right, cool." So he bought the shirt, and I was like, "Wow, that's." But the funny thing he said, he goes, "Well, you know how lights come out of the ocean?" And I was like, "Stop, dude.
Not
No.
really.
Lights don't come out of the ocean." And so people will do that to me, Ruben. They'll say something, I just have to stop. I'm like, "Bro, no, 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 no.
It's because
That's normal."
everybody automatically, just because Ancient Aliens came out that show,
Oh yeah.
and they
Yeah.
go, oh yeah, look, these people were too stupid to make these things. They needed help
Right,
from
right,
other
right.
things, other sources, other. It's still the white, um, uh, Roman Catholic, narcissistic. We're always right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because you guys are too stupid to come up with that. How are we going to believe that you guys made this
But you
map?
know what, though, Ruben? Look at here's an
Right.
interesting one though. And I think we've talked about this, but I think, okay, that guy you can clearly see them. That's that they're out there. But I
Mm,
think the scary one, Ruben, is the one that looks like us. You know,
mhm,
the one that looks like us. Because I'll give you a quick snippet. Was at that indigenous school? At the end of the indigenous school, they had a Sundance there,
mm,
and it was a pretty intense ceremony. And during that Sundance, this guy Tlakael came and he gave lectures and he was running the ceremony. And I remember there being, a handful, not a lot, but just a handful of white people, widows that were part of the circle.
mm.
And I remember this one cat, I don't know who he was, but he was just very vocal and very bothered that there were white people in the circle.
Mm,
And and we were just kind of like, okay. And I remember them teaching us, oh, okay, the Mexica knew there was red, white, black, and all the four colors of the people. So I was like, okay. And we understood that. And so it was just weird, Ruben. But when they were setting up the arbory, where they set the tree up in
mhm.
the middle of the ceremony,
Yeah, the
they all
art.
had to go get wood. And I guess that guy, something happened to him and he fell and almost broke his back and he couldn't be part of the ceremony anymore. It was just like everyone just looked and said, oh, damn, that's kind of weird,
Yeah.
and so
Well,
his energy just was not, what I mean?
I remember running on the Peace and Dignity run,
Uh-huh,
with the staffs,
right?
and I remember clearly, um, the elder saying, when you run with these staffs, run with your mind clear. He's all, don't have any emotion with it, right? And so we were at a place.
Easier said than done, Ruben.
Yeah, exactly. So I pick up the staff, I start running, and I see this police officer
Yeah,
just right in the middle of our circle, just
yeah,
drives through, just
yeah.
with that like, just trying to disperse us, right? And I got emotionally caught up, right? And I start running, anger, and I
Oh,
twist the shit out of my ankle,
oh man.
like really bad.
Right, right,
At
right,
that moment, I understood what medicine was.
right,
Right? Medicine is not to be used for violence or
right.
hatred or have those thoughts.
Yeah, no,
You
no,
know,
no, no.
when you pick up that medicine staff or when you have a medicine intention, do it with love because love is what's guiding that whole thing.
Oh yeah, you know, Ruben, and that's interesting you say that because I think you know, I remember dude, one of my first powwows that I ever did was at you know, at ELAC,
Mm,
you know, and that was your man, the maestro that used to be there, Frank, Uncle Frank.
mm,
And I remember we went there and he gave us, you know, the last spot. And he said, "Oh, Nawak, I think I heard of you guys." You know, I was like, "What? Really? You've heard of us?" And so,
mm,
but it was a very sacred, you know, occurrence. And then during that weekend, I met a Lakota Sioux, and you know, and I think I might have told you the story, but he ended up giving me some medicine. You know, medicine that was just like wow, on another level. And it was just amazing how people, when they feel your energy and they know that you're on a journey, will give you the medicine and the
mm,
things to allow you to flourish on that journey, you know. And
mhm.
it's like it's just a different
As you're saying that, I remember going to the Sundance and making prayer ties, right? Getting a
right,
little
right, right, right,
getting a red cloth, getting a little pinch of tobacco, tying up that cloth, and that became my prayer tie.
right, right,
But as I'm doing this preparation, I'm setting an intention into that tobacco.
right,
Right?
right.
Like I want to pray for this specific
Yes, yes.
intention and all that
Intention is
love.
important, Ruben. It's
And
very
so and so when people give you medicine, right? Like that Lakota gave you medicine,
right.
it's concentrated love
Yes.
and
Oh
intention.
no, I felt that love, Ruben. And you know the thing is, and it's true. I think I do. I now walk all that stuff, man. I love it, man. And I notice it too. Like, okay, so you know, when we started out, Ruben, it was hard because I didn't make the shirts, you know, and so man, I'd look and fuck, I owed my homie, you know, my homie, and like man, I owed him like $38,000. Like, oh shit,
What the
like
fuck, damn.
yeah, like oh fuck, that's a lot of clothes. Like, so I gotta get and sell, you know, and so but eventually, Ruben, I realized, you know, man, fuck, I'm not going out of business. I need to stay in this. I need to buy the machines. I need to buy, you know, and so eventually we bought the machines, you know, and that's why you remember. And I remember I was so excited when you put in custom orders and I was able to print out whatever you wanted, you know, and it
Mm,
was like, okay, that's when we were starting to make some moves, you know,
mm,
you know, I remember those days, you know, and like I remember even Votan when those guys first came out, you know, I was like, oh
mm,
man, and I tried to do my best to help them because man, it was fucked up for us. People just made
mm,
it hard for us, you know, and like
mm,
there was no love. And I remember people putting me in the back of an event where nobody was, you know, and
mm,
like, and I remember those people, man. You know, like, okay, like, I remember you fucker, you know, like, and the thing is that you do, and the thing is, Ruben, that's one thing about me, and I think you know me, man.
yeah,
You burn me or you love me, I'm gonna remember you, you know,
right.
and so, you know, and it's just, it's sad, man, because man,
Well,
it
during that time, Daniel, it seemed like everybody was on the race to be the humble capitalist, and we knew
ha,
that,
ha.
like
Yeah, dude, I was just trying to get out of debt, man.
I
You
mean, think
know,
about
like that was it.
philanthropist, It's not doesn't even sound right. It doesn't. Those
Right.
two words are two different things,
Yeah, but
And
Ruben, but
we had an intention though, and that during that time there was like, yeah, watch, I'm gonna make a bunch of money and go back to my community,
Jesus.
and it just doesn't work that way.
Right,
You have to be involved with your community, connected with your community,
right, right,
and like I said, it's a life. Your whole life is like this prayer tie. You got to put an intention to it.
right, right,
And
right,
know that that intention has value, worth, because it's coming from a mysterious being that we call humans.
right,
Right?
right,
We're
right,
mystical. We don't know what we are. Right.
right, right,
And if we look back to the source of it, or how it all works, or why stop trying to figure that out, and figure out that you have power to lay an intention down.
right,
And that's what I learned with prayer ties. And that's how we exchange medicine. So if you have medicine and you're going to give like this sage to your sister who's struggling,
right,
put a prayer behind that.
right,
Put a prayer and go, look, man, this may not heal her, but can it remind her that I love her? Can it remind her that there are good things
right.
here? Can
But
it
you know,
remind
dude,
her that life is precious and it should be valued?
right,
And then give it to her. Boom. The intention is communicated,
right.
right? Um,
Well, I think too, Ruben, it's to me, it's an energy, okay? And the way I could say it, or the way I would display it, is it like, man, I'd be printing shirts, and you know, I always listen to your music and good music, just you
mm,
know, I just on one, and I would print a shirt and I'd look at it and I'd think, fuck, I like that, you know, that
mm,
just feels good, and I'd set you know those shirts aside, and I kid you not, Ruben, as soon as I went to the booth and I put it up, they would be the first shirts to sell because
Yeah.
it's my love, and I could, yeah, I'm flowing it through, I'm pushing it through the ink, and I'm, and I look at it and I think, and it is such, and it was always fun to have people, helping out when they print, and it's such a cool, like such a positive reinforcer when you push this ink through the screen and then you pull it out and, oh, you see this design, and it's like,
Right.
oh wow, and so it was
And it
just
goes back to what you were saying
I'm actually looking forward to ordering something.
oh man, his gear's dope. His gear's dope. Watch, you'll see that little sheet that he sent us and all that stuff. I mean,
And that's
it
the thing too, Ruben. I wanted to say too that, and you've said this too, and I really like this, that a lot of us, we have commitments, and so
mm,
right now my commitment was to my dad, and so because I had to just take time to take care of my dad, I kind of
mm,
had to put a Nawak just kind of to the side a little bit, but I have a nephew who's at Berkeley right now, and man, he's just eager to get things going, and it's just that's the way the Mexica did it. They had the youth running everything, and we were at the temples,
mhm,
sending the information,
mhm.
and so that's, I'm taking that on, and
It's
I
all
believe.
one community, man. We have
Right,
to think
right,
communal, like communal, not socialist,
right,
not
right,
capitalist, but communal.
right.
Something
Well,
that
and you know what, too, Ruben, is
it's
it's the way.
driven by the heart, like you said.
Right, and it's really what you measure. Like for me, I would measure success by like if people thought, like, "Man, you learned something today," or like because it just, to me, I just think I was blessed that we would do, we would make sell enough shirts that we could stay in business. But really, it'd be nice to meet people and to hear stories. And people shared so much, and everyone has a story and everyone has knowledge. And so, by traveling to all these places, we really got to meet such amazing people, and just everyone just had, and a lot of common stories, but just a lot of love, Ruben, because that's what I think is, I think that I see out there that there's a lot of not love, and I see things out there that I'm not happy with, but rather than saying don't do that, I just have to give you an option that's true,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
so
you
that's
give an alternative. When I
right,
went to
right,
Tepoztlan, when I went to Mexico and
right.
played at Vive Latino, and I went to the market, I was tripped out, right? I went to this mercado or whatever, and I was tripped out because this lady sold quesadillas, and the one across said so also sold quesadillas, and the one over there sold
Right,
quesadillas.
right,
That one sold quesadillas,
right,
and I
right.
went, ¿todos venden quesadillas? Sí, todos vendemos, pero esta es mi salsa.
Yeah,
They were
right,
like, pero esta
right,
es mi
right,
salsa, right?
right,
And then
right,
pero esta es mi salsa y esa, oh,
right,
pero esa
right,
hace esa quesadillas
right,
de coliflor, y
right,
esta hace de nopal, y esta hace de. Everybody sold the same thing, but it was a community that focused on their talents, right?
right, right.
If people were gonna sit down at their bench to eat their quesadillas, it's because they love that salsa. Oh, I really love this.
Right, 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 right. It's the
Right?
flavor. It's
And
the flavor.
sometimes you can find those communities still.
Yeah.
No,
But
no, they exist. They're totally there. And
it was just a trip to see people sell the same thing. It was all the same fucking thing, but different cheeses, different
okay,
salsas, different
Ruben. Okay,
varieties.
on that note, okay, you're right. And so think about it. For me, like a Nawak, okay, I never ever have seen any competition as to what I do, and it's just not. I've never been on that mindset, and even like I would go to shows, and I'd never go out looking at the other booths because I was just on my thing, and so. Um, yeah, I just don't. I saw that. I remember Ruben clearly. We'd show up, and people would just be bummed. I'm like, oh man, that kind of sucks, But it
Right, but
just
we didn't have the same attitude as in Tepoztlan, where it was a community of
right,
people who made the same thing, but
right.
as a community, right?
Well, I mean,
You
but Ruben, okay, here's the thing. Like, if you got a dope shirt, someone's gonna buy it, and they're not gonna
yeah,
just buy just yours. They're gonna buy everybody's shirt. You know what I
right.
mean? And
They're
it's
gonna
like,
go to the booth across. They're
right,
gonna
right,
go,
and it's all good. Like that's the thing is that I just never, what I mean. I was never looking at other people when I was doing my thing. It was all.
mm,
But again, too, when I started, there was no one to compare to.
mhm,
I mean, I take that back. George Chicano Nation, he always had,
right?
he's, and I remember, I don't know what he's called now, but Shigoat had a line for a little while, and
Mhm,
like,
mhm,
and there was another homie, but I mean, they all were good, and again, I just try to support them, and never, because it's like the movement or the intent of teaching about our culture is the utmost, and
mhm.
so we just, that was the goal. And so I just think as long as people got information, as long as people learn something, but I don't know. I too, we'd have fun. How many times though, Ruben, someone would come to my booth and they'd say, well, I've never heard of this, and I'd be
Yeah.
like, all
Well,
right, bro. So,
it hurts, it bruises their white supremacist attitude,
well,
right? Like, I
right.
remember being in that booth and it's like when did this booth become a debate about your fucking college experience and your fucking college professor saying this about our culture?
Right,
Right.
right, right,
I didn't see a Nawak as that. I seen a
right,
Nawak as an individual that spent time learning and put together symbols that he explained. That's
right,
it. It wasn't fact. It wasn't like, yo, this goes in the museum of fucking fact right here and then put in your face,
right,
right? It
right,
was more
right,
like your intention. Like I said, that's why I loved, being able to put that example of the prayer time, right? Because it kind of symbolizes a person's intention. What is that intention? I didn't see you going, hey, bro, we're getting this fucking jumbo loan from the bank and we're opening up right on fucking
right,
Silver Lake and we're
right,
going to take
right,
this
right,
to another level. We got this
right,
fucking artist right here who's going to wear our shirts and we're going to do that's like capitalism.
right,
That's
right,
exploitation.
right,
Putting
right,
together an intention so your people are more aware of what symbols
right,
and
right,
where those symbols come from and what
right,
those symbols mean. Before your shirt, I really didn't know the symbol for
right.
Ometeo
Yeah, right.
or I was still new to the glyph of Quetzalcoatl,
Hey,
and
but Ruben, and you guys share, you gotta tell him, man, that like, remember when I first came, dude? Oh man, everybody hated on me.
yeah,
Like it
but
was like,
that's the
oh
way
that,
LA is, though. LA is
yeah,
like,
And the funny thing is, I think I
Well,
was your
look
sister or
in
somebody.
in my history as a kid, I remember going to like a Divine Forces seditious beat show.
mm,
16, 15 years old, bro.
well,
And the host was wearing an Unaku shirt,
yeah, there you go.
and it was Fidel.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
the homie.
that was very close to Anawak as well.
Yeah, that's the homie. That's the
Yeah.
homie. Fidel's the
He
homie.
was, he was, dude.
And
Without
guys,
Fidel, we
I
wouldn't
was
have did
14,
anything.
15 years old,
Yeah, yeah,
and
That's
that
awesome.
influenced me
right. You
off
know,
of a hip hop T-shirt.
right.
Right,
I just, again, Fidel's prayer tie was Divine Forces Radio, and
right,
bringing these artists that had profound wisdoms, right, onto into light and playing them on the air. And if it wasn't for Fidel, no one would know about El Vuh. Right. If
right,
it wasn't for
right,
Divine
right,
Forces Radio being a hot radio show to get information about what's happening um, in our society, you went there because he was going to interview David Icke, or he was going to interview
right,
an
right, right,
Immortal
right,
Technique, or he was going to interview some crazy fucking person. And guess what? Right after he interviews David Icke, El Vuh comes on.
right,
And people like, it's like it's just it's a community,
right.
family. It's a
Hey,
community.
and remember, his wife had the bookstore. And so it's just information, man.
Yeah, yeah, that's the first
Everyone.
place that I found, if it wasn't for Fida, I wouldn't have got introduced to the Four Agreements and followed
Right,
that path
right,
and
right,
and
right,
really immersed myself in that wisdom, right? In the Toltec wisdom, getting and adding that wisdom to my heart.
right,
Yeah.
There it
right,
is.
That's all
right,
it is. It's just adding wisdom to your heart. When you add wisdom to your heart without judgment, without ownership, in a sovereign manner, right? Because you're going to use those tools to be sovereign in this world, to
right,
stand up for your rights, to know what's right and what you feel inside is wrong. Like, whoa, this is taking advantage of me. You have to be able to say, have sovereignty, have eloquence to defend yourself.
right,
And these symbols and this philosophy and this culture was built on that,
right,
right?
right,
Right? If you were trying to be the chingon in back in the Mexica time, you had to back it up. You couldn't just
right.
be faking it. You can't go, oh yeah, I just have a lot of feathers and that's why I wear them.
You're
I
funny.
was like, fuck no, I just
Right,
bought
right,
them. No, I earned them. I'm wearing them because they mean something to me. When you
right,
talk to
right,
me, you're talking to this. We
right,
have presence. We have to reclaim that. And we reclaim that by becoming a loving community with
right,
each other,
right.
right? And
Well,
I
and I think
find
Ruben,
people who
and a
find
lot of it is
more.
easier, when somebody's guiding you, when you've got somebody that lays it for you,
Mm,
and I think, for us, I just tried to make it a better option because, man, in my opinion, you always heard the worst thing about our culture, and it's like, man, I'm tired of hearing that. I know there's another part. I
yeah,
know there's another part that they just don't know about because how could we all be here and be, like it seemed
yeah.
to me to be just a big farce, and so by doing the research and you start to realize, man, we're such a talented, culture, but not only just the culture, but I mean, because even too, Ruben, I look at it and I think I chose a Nawak because I thought a Nawak was a unifying concept,
Mm,
because I think that I was trying to put something that people can all be a part of, because I think sometimes we take labels and such, and they're almost sometimes limiting, and so to me, Anáhuac meant the whole continent, and so like, man, at some point we're going to be one continent again.
Mm. Or we are one. Because
Right,
we're
right,
going
we
to
never weren't.
conceptualize we're going to break colonial perspective and take our time with it. Because even if it takes 100 years, I know my children already have been implanted with a different outlook of life.
Right,
Right.
right,
And I
right.
didn't do that forcefully going, you're going to the sweat lodge and you're going to the Ansa and like a fucking Spaniard forcing motherfuckers to go to
Right,
church.
right,
I didn't do that. I did it with love.
right.
I let my kids disagree with me.
Hey, but you know
My
what, dude?
oldest son, I just seen
Yeah.
Charlotte up in Berkeley. I mean, Oline up in Berkeley, and I'm so proud of that guy. He's starting to eat organic. He's working at Whole Foods, and
The chip off the old block.
I almost feel him saying, "Dad, I think I'm gonna go plant based." I didn't force it on him. I gave
It's
him an
funny.
example. I gave him a father who's healthy, a father who is eloquent and speaks directly. We have to reinvent what's gonna heal us, right? And none of those answers and wearing clothing like Anawa clothing and wearing clothing like LA natives, gear, any kind of artist that you appreciate their message, you're making that statement. And that's what Anawa brought. When you came around with the booth, it was like, oh, what shirt am I getting and what color am I,
Yeah.
because
You know what, too, Ruben? You're right. And
one
you
time
know,
Jenny goes, man, all you have is Anawa shirts.
but Ruben, the thing is that those shirts are great conversation starters, man.
Mm,
People would just be like, and I thought it was funny because, you'd see, I don't know, man, our women are beautiful. Our people are beautiful. And our people come in all colors, because
mm.
as Mexicas, a lot of us are brown, but Mexicas can be brown, black, white, yellow. We come in all colors, and so I just thought it was funny. People, the most beautiful girl was like, "Oh, people always ask me about my shirt." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm sure they do."
Well,
Like, and it's
well,
just approachable.
it's a packed house. The chat is lit.
Nice.
People are obviously asking where can we get one, and it's in the works.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh,
We're
we're
definitely bring
setting
it
it
back,
up, and
and we're
this
gonna be hosting it right here on the LA Natives podcast.
Hey, but
absolutely.
I'm gonna be we'll be back here soon enough, because the thing is right now, Mondo, I've got a bunch of inventory and I got to clear out, and then we're starting again, yeah, for sure, and it's gonna be
Absolutely.
I'm definitely, and you guys really are a big part of the impetus for me to do that. So I thank you. I thank you for giving me the platform, and to really just share the love, because it's really about love, man. And it's just, I've been so blessed, like I said, just having the support, and then like Ruben meeting you, and it's just been a group of good
Well,
people.
Daniel, you're on my show because I really care about you and I do love you, man. Like
Yeah,
you are a
likewise,
brother.
brother.
You're a brother to me, just like as much as I love Armando. And I love
Right,
anybody who wants to be a part of this community.
right,
This
right, right.
community is about healing and getting along and having
Yes,
differences of opinion, right? How many
right.
people have been on the fucking chat disagreeing with shit? Cool, but did we kick them out? Did we point them out?
No,
Did
you don't have
we
to.
agree with
It's okay to
them?
disagree, right?
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, Ruben, the more information, the better the choice.
As
You
a
just
matter of fact, I respect their opinion. That's why I don't say anything. If
right,
I'm gonna say something to my brother, it's that I love you and I connect
right,
you and
right,
I'm on the
right,
same team as you.
right,
Okay? If you have information that I don't know that maybe will
right,
enlighten me, you have to accept that if your information doesn't enlighten me, that's okay. I
right.
have that all the time with my partner. It's like I'm trying to fucking force her. Look, see the fucking
God,
point. It's like, whoa, whoa,
Jesus, whoa, what's wrong with that method?
whoa. Chill out, Zero, because you don't have all the answers all the time, you know? And we can't be that way with each other.
Right,
We have to be tolerant enough to know, hey, this brother feels strongly about this, and respect and know that that's still my brother.
right,
That's still my team member. That's still my community. If
right.
we do that for 100 years, we will be out of this fucking mess.
Right, right, and we gotta start it, man. We're already starting it, Ruben. I mean, and it's about love, and I think also too, it's about leading with the example, which is,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing that. You got to
Leading with
lead by
your
example.
intention. Lead with your
Yes,
prayer time. Lead with your
yes,
prayer time, man. Lead with your
yes,
metaphoric prayer time that you get up every morning, that you put an imaginary cloth, an imaginary pinch of tobacco, and then consult with the sacred calendar and go, oh, today's the day of the snake, which is today. Today's the day of the snake, right?
right.
11 snake, I think. Yeah, 11 snake. and then we're gonna walk with the serpents today in a good way,
Right.
loving our people,
Right.
loving ourselves, and learning as much as we can and sharing that wisdom with everyone
Right.
else.
Right. Right.
That's being us, right?
Right.
The
Right. Well,
first
the thing is, Ruben, we're the
walked
flavor.
into one, and if I walked into your house, I think the first thing your mom would say was, "Sit down. What can I get you? Can I get you a glass of water?
Yep.
Can I feed you something? You know, can that's us.
Right.
That's us.
Right.
Don't let them break us, because we've
No.
been carrying us for
Right.
500 years.
Yes.
We've been
And
carrying
you,
us.
and you know what, Ruben? It's a. I mean, I was really happy this last weekend. I got relatives that came here from Mexico City. And it's interesting because the when I started on Nawak, my partner, he was a teacher that was working with me, and then eventually he ended up marrying my cousin from Mexico City.
Oh,
And so now they live in Gilroy, and they got two beautiful kids. And so it's just it's a nice thing. And now her brother tells me, hey, I'm in Mexico City going back. He says, I know you used to bring art in this thing. He says, hey, when are we going to do that again? So it's like
wow.
that everything's working out, Ruben. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, just tell me, because yeah, we just got to get on it again. I've seen stuff out there, Ruben, and you just can't do anything but just try to do what you can do, because
Yeah,
I see people.
do your version of it. There's no reason to talk bad
Right,
or
right,
let people be themselves.
right, right,
Eventually, they're
right,
gonna go, "Oh, I see this." You know,
right,
let them have that profound moment. That's respect. To
right.
let them grow at their own time. You know,
Well,
and
the
not
Mexica, Ruben, the Mexica had, we always did our best, and it was our goal to be the best, and so when I do the clothing, I do it to be the best, and it's not, how do you say, it's like, it's my personal intention, to just provide the best shirts, the best designs, the highest quality, and that's just, I'm not looking at anybody else. I'm just doing me, and
nice.
so and that's, but again, dude, it's just love. It's so, I love, Ruben. I love when people come in and they're like, oh, I've never seen anything like this, and you start telling them stuff. It's like, oh man, they're just like a kid in a candy store. Then they end up buying a couple stuff, and then this is what I love the best is they bought a couple shirts, and it's like, you know what, man, what else did you think? Oh, I like that shirt, but I didn't have enough. I said, you know what, man, it's all good. Here, take it. Fucking,
Mm,
it's free today on me.
mm.
And it's so nice to do that. To just,
Abundance. That's
I mean, we have
abundance.
T-shirts.
That's an abundant way of
Yes,
thinking. An abundant way of thinking. I know one time, I know this is what I do at Malinali. Sometimes when I used to pop up, man, people would be there. Nobody bought a drink from us yet. You know what I do? I fucking fill a drink up and I go to a vendor and I go, here, man.
oh yeah,
Here
yeah,
you go. And, oh, you
right,
want one too? Okay, here you go. Boom.
right, right,
I
right,
thought you were supposed to be selling shit. I am selling stuff,
right,
but I'm
right.
giving this to you.
You're doing it at your own pace.
Yeah, it's like, hey, bro, it's like I want to be in an abundant thought, right? And I figured
Right,
out that once I ingested large amounts of mineral foods like spirulina, chia seed, cacao, I was eating it in abundance. I was eating it in large, large amounts, which expanded my thought, expanded my way of being. Is to be abundant, to be to if you had something and you had an excess of something, life is abundant. Share that
yeah.
abundance with everyone. But most of all, share your love because you should have an abundance of love in your heart.
Well, and Ruben,
Because when you prove to colonials that you have an abundance amount of love in your heart, that means they didn't break you from your
right,
original root. They
right.
didn't break that.
Of course not. And we're where we're from. Where we're supposed to be. And yeah, no, Ruben, it's very true. And I just think it's just we,
If wait, Daniel, I just thought of a point. If you don't think our culture represents love, what is that? Remember that everybody has it, that calendar with the guys holding a girl, his
right,
love of his life,
right, right,
and
right,
she's
right.
gone. Oh my
But
God.
that's the volcano, Ruben. That's
Right,
the Popo Siwat and the Popo Tepetl.
right.
They're the ultimate. What is it? What do they call it? The Romeo and Juliet story.
Yeah, the example of love,
It's the
right?
original.
An
Yeah.
example of love. What would you do for your partner who you fall in love with in this lifetime? Or maybe
Right.
you fall in love with multiple people in this lifetime.
Right.
But don't
Right.
forget the root of what it is, which is
Right.
love,
Right.
love,
Right.
an
Right.
unconditional love. You
Well,
know,
brother, that's it. Unconditional love is a very, that's a high frequency, Ruben. When you're resonating at that frequency, because when you're resonating at that frequency, you don't expect anything back. You're
yeah,
just
there's no
giving it
need
out.
for it. There's no need
You
for
know.
that. There's no need for expecting someone to say something
But
when.
but Ruben, you have to understand, man, the world lives in expectations, man. And
Yeah.
think about it, what better way to create disappointment,
Mhm.
than to
You know,
just set yourself up for, it's always say if you just leave yourself open, and man, it's amazing. It's an amazing world, and so, but yeah, we really, again, too, I just feel blessed, man, that we, because that's the thing too, when you have enough knowledge and information, you're able to make the right decisions, and
Mm.
able to live. It's like you said, to be sovereign, because
Right.
I think that a lot of times we don't realize how sovereign we are.
Yeah. They need our agreement to go along with things, right? They
Right.
need us to follow in line and fucking talk to other people. Oh, you haven't done that yet? What the fuck? You're fucking hurting me now. What the fuck?
Right.
It's like
Right.
they need that shit. But I'm glad that you're getting the thought of, well, not getting the thought, but you're organizing yourself to put out an awak again
Oh yeah, no,
and
Ruben,
come on
it's
the
it's been.
podcast and
Every
organize.
time I wear a shirt, dude, I mean, when I wear the sweatshirt, man, I really, it's nice, Ruben. And I think maybe that's what it is too, Ruben. I would assume that people that wear Anawak clothing, when you're out in the world, people react to you,
Yeah.
because
Well,
it's not a passive thing, that these symbols are old, and so our ancestors use them to imprint in us, concepts and ideas, and they were so profound that our DNA reads it, and
so
so.
that's a good point. So here, I want to leave the community with this. And tell me what you think. This is more on throwing it on a conversational side with you, Daniel.
Mhm.
What I was sitting, this past week, I had this profound thought. And I was talking to somebody at Malinali, and I said, I said, you have to understand that our art was science, right? Art and science. It wasn't separate. It wasn't
Right.
like this is
Right.
art. Look at it
Right.
as an art something. It was codes, math, colors,
Yes.
many different things. That to me is a science, right? Art, science.
But I
That
would add it. I would add it, Ruben. Look at think of it like literature. Okay, you're
mm,
reading a book, and that's literature, and then you get El Vuh, and it's a song.
mm,
So the Mexica make knowledge a song. It's not just a script. And so by using their artistic flavor, they made knowledge appealing. They made knowledge part of a story, that had a double meaning. And so it's kind of like I was explaining the Aztec calendar. You've got the bottom of it where you've got their it looks like it's the heads of the serpent, but they're actually two scorpions with their tails up.
mm,
And when the two scorpions come together, they make the butterfly. So it's the male and female coming together, and those natural forces that form and through a different form become a different concept,
mm.
but all within the same form. And so if you look at that upside down the calendar, it's a baby's face. It's a head, because that's conception. When the two come together and you turn it upside down, it's a baby coming out of the birth canal.
Right. So, again, art depicting science.
Right, right,
Art depicting science. Not like if we look in modern times now, we look at science and go, let's see science. And it's a bunch of fucking just papers that we're just
right,
flipping
right,
through, and
right,
it's like
right,
words and numbers and fucking we've been doing this study for so. I'm
right,
not trying to discredit that there's results from doing that. I'm not saying
right,
that.
right, right,
What I'm
right.
saying is that the picture with science allows you to go into thought about a particular subject to come out with an outcome, right? That symbol's going, whoa, 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 shit. Like when you look, like for instance, we discuss Goyoshauki, right? And then we go,
Right.
oh, it's not only the lunar phases, it's the constellations. Look at her arm,
Yes,
look at her
yes.
this, look at it's not only she's not cut up because someone violently, took her
Reuben. Yeah, I
parts.
mean to get you off, but Reuben, think about it. Her nipple is the North Star.
You see?
So if her nipple's the North Star, everything spins around the North Star.
Right.
Okay.
Science.
Yeah.
That's
And so,
science, bro.
and
That's
Reuben, how
science.
many how many stars are there? 400.
Yeah.
What's the next base count in the Mayan count? It's 20 and then 400. So they're teaching you, because that's what I was saying. At the
We
school,
are.
they would teach you the math, and then they tell you a story that coincided with the math, and they do a danza that did the number steps. And so, what it is that we live in the colonized concept of education, where you just do math, or you just do literature, or you just do food. Okay, the Mexicans weren't like that. They were a circle, so that's why all those 20 symbols represent all the studies that you're going to study in your life, and you pursue those. But then the thing is that you, when you came through the birth canal, there was two in particular that would be your strongest energies, and so, and the thing is interesting, I wanted to say is that, like, you look at Masatzin, and that guy, you think all his life he's studied this information, Ruben, and so, for him to see it and understand it and then explain it, that's profound. It's a lot of good information there.
Mm.
I myself, I wasn't naturally that way. I went to schools where the teachers exposed me to it, and then I was like, wow. Once I learned that, and I was able to take it to different places, But so it's like
That's what I'm saying, is that the symbols are making your mind go into different conclusions.
right,
It's multiple conclusions with the sacred symbols. They're not just, oh, look, they drew Quetzalcoatl. Dope.
right, right,
It's not that. It's,
right, right,
why does he have this many feathers? Why is he facing a certain direction?
right,
What does he have in his hand? Every single bit of it has information.
right, right.
It makes your mind go into different forms and conclusions.
Yes,
Right.
yeah. But that's the thing, Ruben, is that we live in a very complex world, and they understood a lot of the complexities, and then in those complexities, they gave them titles and names, and so, the thing is that the biggest problem was that the Spanish intellectual couldn't grasp what they were encountering. They were
Because
destroying everything.
they come from a patriarchal perspective. They don't value women. They
Right,
don't
right,
value the earth. They don't value every single elements that create us as humans. That's the simple part.
right. And Ruben,
That's where we have to take our mind.
right,
Yeah.
but the thing is, you said something, and it's, to me, it's just kind of a theme that we're dealing with right now. We've always dealing with it, but man, these missing and abused, murdered women, and so, like, when the invasion began, they turned all of our teachers and sources of energy into property, sexual property, and so, man, that's been a suffering, that invasion. We got to cut that shit already, and so, but that's again, too, we just, our people, need to be respected as people, and it's just a lot of times they don't even see us as human,
Right.
and so,
And in time, with time, not in time, with time, 100 years from now, we are going to be a different people.
oh my God, I'd say 10 years, Ruben.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I agree with you, but we're
in 100, let's use the sacred count. In 100,
okay,
104 years, right? 252-year counts.
right,
We're going to be a different people. I guarantee you,
for
we're going to
sure,
be a different people. It has nothing to say with my prophecy or any prophecies or any of that. I just know that in multiple areas, our roots are coming out. And they're
right,
not roots, they're flowers. Now it's
right.
starting to fruit. Now you got Anahuac organizing his clothing line again. You got LA natives doing events like Echo and Aslan in January. You got
Hey,
the community
Ruben, you
gathering
too. I was gonna say, I
consistently
would, a
plant-based.
couple of years ago, I did the Mexica New Year in LA, and man, I was really impressed. A lot of the new companies and a lot of these young cats that are just on fire, man, and it was just really encouraging, man. Again, too, I don't think there's enough indigenous stuff out there. There's definitely, you know,
Well, Arturo Mesa said it. I went to one of Arturo Mesa's lectures, right? And he said something profound that really hit me. He's all like, time is exactly how you were explaining it, Daniel. It's a circle. It keeps coming back around, right?
right,
He's all, you think that the conquest ended? It just keeps coming back around. They just
right.
find
That's
new
true.
ways of reconquering you, right?
Yes,
Because they have to fulfill that itch. Like
right,
they need to keep us in this loop of conquering,
right,
right? How
right,
do we break the conquering? By going back to our original knowledge
right, right,
in
right,
our
right.
own time, with our own pace,
Yes,
and then the community not judging you for it, but helping you with it.
right,
When we get 104 years from now, right? I won't be alive for that moment, but I know that 104 years from now, we're going to be a different community because we are
right.
setting intentions now.
Yes,
Daniel is setting an intention because he finally found his road back to that same point, like
right,
Arturo Mesa said,
right,
and said, Anahuac was important to people.
right,
Anahuac gave a smile to women, men, children. I brought back items from our motherland to share with people far away from it,
right, right,
right? And LA Natives is the marketplace. LA Natives is the place where you will find Daniel and those sacred symbols that
Right.
represent science and
Right.
beauty, science and art, right?
Right. Right.
Daniel,
Hey,
it was
Ruben,
awesome talking to
you,
you, brother.
I was gonna say there was a couple of comments. I was just gonna say real quick. I saw somebody said if Quetzalcoatl was a white man. No, Quetzalcoatl wasn't a white man.
Yeah, burst
Right?
his hope.
You know what? We definitely need to bring Daniel back on.
Oh, Daniel's gonna be a part of our
He's
Patreon that we said we're gonna be launching.
it's a packed house. I appreciate
Yeah,
all
it's all good. And Mondo, thank you too for being the silent, producer of everything back there. Because I know, a lot of this is, your effort and your intent as well. And man, I was so happy to hear that like you were born on July 26th. Tell me, like
there it is,
that's just,
man.
Yeah,
It's all
you
adding
know,
up, brother.
yeah,
it
absolutely.
does. It is, and nothing's for everything's already written down. That's the crazy thing.
Right. Well, we completed our 500 years of darkness. That happened.
Yes,
That
yes,
happened already. And now and then people say, well, we're still oppressed and we're still under the white. No, your mind is. Your
right,
habits are. When you
right,
break those habits, when you break the fact that women have value and have voice and they shouldn't dominate you, but you should at least listen and have respect when they do that. And that takes practice. I'm not saying that I do that all the time. I'm not saying that my ego's completely gone. Of course, I'm not trying to portray something that I'm not, but I do know that I do sit down sometimes and I keep my mouth quiet and I listen and I observe, right? Just like
right,
the four
right,
basic elements, I go through those four things and then I have an intention that comes with it,
right,
right? And
right.
that's the big intention that we have with LA Natives. And man, I wish LA Natives was like a 5 hour podcast and we'd have, you know, tons and
We
tons of, but we'll take our time, and the
You're
time.
doing good work, Ruben. You guys are doing good work. And the thing is that you're doing something and people are answering to it. And
Oh,
so
it's
it's
my prayer tie, bro. It's my prayer tie. When I put this imaginary cloth in my hand and I take a pinch of tobacco and I tie that cloth with the red string and it becomes
right,
this little intention. That's what it is. I'm telling my people that I love them
right.
unconditionally. I'm
But
telling my
Ruben,
people that there are sources of information, not from me,
right,
from a community,
right,
from
right,
a landmass called the Nawak,
right,
from
right,
many, many cultures all spread out our landmass. Not for 1 minute did we go away. Not for
right.
one
Yeah, we
minute
never left.
did we give up. Not for 1 minute. If my son is named Olin, if my daughter is named Mayawel, if my son is named Olin, if my middle son is named Sholot, if his brother's name Stekpat, and his little brother's name is Tlahuizcal Pantecutli, then we have not gone anywhere. We are still here.
Right.
And we need to put that prayer tie in our everyday life.
Ruben, I was gonna say one thing I've heard recently, and I really like it, man. Do you know what the root of happiness is?
No, what is it?
Is to be thankful.
Nice. Beautiful. And that's believe me, when I wake up all groggy and my son's like,
Right,
I'm dad, I'm
right,
ready to go
right.
to school. And I see that sun, boom. I'm thankful. Hey, thank you for one more day. I'm still breathing. I still
But
have
we
that.
have a lot to be thankful for. Give thanks, Ruben. And it's
Absolutely. It's
yeah,
time
that's
to
like
concentrate that collectivity of
yes,
gratefulness and join our markets, join our movement. Plant-based Aslan, December 5th at Malin Ali Superfoods,
right on.
4528 Whittier Boulevard.
Great food, uh, great
Plant-based food.
great vendors.
Yes. Art, man, the artisans that are gonna show up at Plant-based Aslan, man, they're dope. And then when Daniel's ready, which I'm sure
And,
he's gonna be
and
soon.
this is this coming Sunday.
Yes,
Oh
December
wow,
5th.
yeah, be there, guys.
We're gonna also have a workshop from a individual that comes from the Virikuta area, and he's gonna show us, some medicine and show some of his stories from his land, you know. And that's what Mexicas do. We absorb wisdom, you know what I mean, and just apply it to our lives and not take ownership of it, but just be grateful that we
Right,
know and got introduced to it. And that's the
right,
way we should all walk. We should all be happy that someone said something that maybe made you react. Well, what about God? Well, what about was Quetzalcoatl white? It's like, who cares?
No, but
It's
you know, though, Ruben,
fucking like,
it's okay. Those are okay questions, man. Because the thing is that that's what people are told,
yeah,
and so you
yeah,
just,
and they run with that narrative that
but
they
it's
were
okay though,
gods and that we confused this smelly ass short fucking non-women toting men as gods. That
right,
does not even make fucking sense. Even when I repeat that right now, it just does
right.
not make
I know,
sense.
I know, I know.
Like, fuck, this dude is filthy. Go fucking shower his ass.
Right,
Before we take him
right.
to the official that he needs to talk to, you need to take his ass, get his Metal Gear off his fucking ass because he stinks like a motherfucker, and go shower him before we take him to the Tlatuani who has voice. You're not gonna
Right,
take a filthy guy to that guy's gonna be like, what the fuck? What the fuck is this bum doing here?
right,
Right?
right,
It
right,
that's we did not mistake you for gods. Get over that.
right,
Get over that
right,
white
right,
supremacy. Get over that shit.
right,
We just broke down Koyoshauki's constellation, its movement. That is so far from.
right. But you know what, though, too, Ruben, and this is from a historical perspective, because I would do lectures on Quetzalcoatl in the summertime, and you know what it is that the Vikings had come to North America, had mixed with the tribes, and had gone back,
Mm.
and they had a serpent boat, and so, you know, them saying they're going to come back, but they in no way would ever choose or claim to be gods,
And
and so,
even that alone, like, again, a narrative where a white Viking crosses an ocean and fucking lands on us, and now all of a sudden this motherfucker,
right.
he's the only motherfucker that knows how to ride this ocean. I don't think
Right,
so. I
right,
don't
right. But
think so.
again, too, remember, Ruben, all of this stuff is possible without a critical mind. If you're
Mm.
not critical of any of this, man, you just take it in and take it in. But the moment you begin to ask yourself the questions, it's like, man, this is okay. It's kind of weird, and
We have to break colonial perspective, and here it is. You guys in the science world and in the world of the white man's understanding is going, oh shit, we just found a pyramid that's fucking 20,000 years old. Holy shit.
right, right,
Right?
right.
That's not science, bro.
It's not. It's
That's
not.
just it's
It's
fucking art.
literature, Ruben. It's
That's
literature and propaganda. And it's
absolutely. There you go.
and
Thank
it's
you for
not.
finishing my
They
thought.
call it as such, but they have no authority. There's just no
Yeah.
authority, and it just. Yeah, in a world of facts and information, it just because we're in 2021 now. They fed us for so long, and now it's like,
It's falling
okay,
apart.
man.
It's a falling apart. It doesn't
Yeah,
even make sense. It
no,
does not make sense in our world.
no.
But um, thank you, LA Natives, for being lit on the chat. Thank you for joining us,
Always a pleasure, man. You guys
man.
are awesome.
Daniel, thank you for being you.
Hey, and
Thanks
thanks
for
for being my
sharing.
reflection, Ruben.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing your talents with LA Natives, and we can't wait till your clothing gets back online
Right on, brother.
and you start making the moves that you used to make and making our community more
Yeah,
connected and more and
and
just
and you know what, too?
the one thing about your booth, everybody liked going there and talking to you, bro. That was
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Yeah,
And I love talking to them.
yeah,
Because that was the thing, Ruben. Is just knowledge and information's free. It was free all day, every day.
yeah. Absolutely. That's the way I feel at Malinali, man. When people come in, they
Right.
go,
Oh,
"Oh
I'm
shit, I
sure.
didn't know that. Fuck," and they walk out.
Right. Hey,
I'm
but
like,
that's
"Congrats,"
priceless, Ruben. But that's life. That's what what they call it, like a circle. A native circle is a circle of knowledge.
Right, because we're one community, we're one landmass, we're one. Like my sweat leader says in the lodge, it's no one mind, one voice. One mind, one voice, one heart.
Right
We're all
on.
together here. We're walking together with love and humility, but with sovereignty and an
Right.
ability to protect ourselves.
Right.
From whatever threat you feel. But have it be rooted with a beautiful intention,
Right.
a grateful intention that you're alive and that
And
you're a
Ruben,
part of someplace.
imagine when Rasa is like the hand and we come together.
Yeah.
It's over, man. Because
Well,
it's
that's what
just
we did with the
you know
Virgin Mary. They tried to fucking pry her away from us. They tried
right.
to take Don Unseen away from us, but we
Right.
just said, fuck it, we're gonna be this.
Yeah.
And all of us did it. All of us. Like, I mean, try to talk shit in Mexico about the Virgin Mary.
Right. Oh my God, that's nuts. Yeah. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But again, Ruben, that's just that's
But
that's
that's the beauty of our road, man. I look at this the next 104 years as a beautiful challenge, and I'm gonna walk with a big old smile on my face
yes.
until I get to wherever I get to, and know that my prayer tie is about love, unity, and sovereignty.
Right on.
And thank you for being my friend,
Yeah,
Daniel. And
no, always
we'll
a
see.
pleasure, man.
Thank everybody on the chat that was
Yeah, no,
chiming
thank
in.
everybody, and yeah, I look forward to and you too, Ruben. I do look forward to doing workshops and sharing more
Oh,
stuff.
that's in the works, and that's something that we're going to gather our community and organize. Like I told the Armando that next year is going to be very organized, and we're going to have tons of events that we need to coordinate properly.
Right,
Like
right,
Absolutely.
the one thing that the Spaniards didn't understand, and they could have got it. It was right at your fucking fingertips, man. Is to sit down with the Tlatoanian
right,
and ask him how he used to move all these people and
right.
organize and create this beautiful city that they live in, right? To
Yeah,
have respect,
yeah.
right? Not
Ruben, we were the gold they couldn't steal.
absolutely. They cannot steal that. You can't steal that
They
wisdom
couldn't steal
because
it.
if we look at time, we didn't look at time in a linear fashion, so it was always revolving.
Yeah,
And lifetimes, life ages, things when it's like, man, there was so much information there.
yeah,
And that's why I'm so excited to plant that seed inside my children and have them take it to the next 7 generations and keep moving.
yeah.
Because
7 generations for sure,
104 years from now, we are going to be different. We
for
are
sure.
going to be different. And Mondo has a part in it. You have a part in it. I have a part in it. We're not the movement,
And
but we're
everyone that's
doing our part.
watching and listening is
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
involved in it. So,
it
Everyone.
was written in the stars.
yo, thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you, Armando.
We will bring you guys, bring you back, and
Do a workshop.
yep.
We're going to do an in live workshop with you, Daniel. That's the next
Right, no,
thing.
I look forward to it.
And yeah, man. Yeah. Thanks for being on, Daniel.
All right, man. You guys have a good night.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Say hi to your dad for me and say hi
I
to
will.
the dogs, the
All
pits.
right, man.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.